from Radio Studio, Studio City, New York, whatever. I know. That's not true at all. But hey, it sounds good. What's going on, Shane? Good to see you, brother.
It's good to see you too, mate. Yes, well, here we are. It's another Audiophile show. It's right. But before we get onto that, I think you and I need to have a bit of a catch up here. So, what's going on with you, brother?
Oh, just trying to wake up every day and figure out how I can make $1 million and realize every night that I failed at doing it.
That sounds very familiar.
Hasn't worked out so far yet. I haven't figured out the right scheme. I tried doing all like the MLM stuff. I tried flipping records on Discogs. I tried all this stuff, man. Nothing has worked out for me so far. Just this raw, hard work is all that seems to matter any day. Like that's all people want to pay for. It's just you working your ass off. That's all people want. I don't know.
That sounds familiar.
Damn it, there's no free way to get money. Whoo! Golly. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, we're seeing a room starting to build up. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm going to answer Shane's question here in a moment because we do got a lot of stuff going on here over at Vinyl Latte. I know Shane's got a lot of stuff too. But while you join, please say hello, say where you're coming from. Mr. Charles Kermis, always great to have you on the program, man. Thank you so much, brother, for joining us from Denver. I'm glad that I think you're home this time. I think the last time you joined us, you were in a yacht in Mexico. So welcome back to Denver, where it's hopefully cooler, a little bit more relaxed. Good to see you.
Yeah, back at home base by the sounds of things.
All right. And we also have, let's see here. We also have Nick calling in.
Yeah, Nick's in. Hey, Nick. What's going on, brother?
Parking the car. Yeah, welcome, Nick. I don't have a Boston accent. I tell you what, Boston is the most craziest city. Anytime I've ever gone there, first off, your taxi drivers are just insane. Every time I've ever gone to take a taxi there, I'm like, my life is going to end here in a cab. And then in the streets, you don't have blocks. You got like this spider web of navigation. It's always fun, but I always have a blast in your city. Thanks so much for coming in. We also have Mr. Woof coming in from Tampa.
Ooh, yeah, Tampa.
Look at that. And Charles is going to be at the Melbourne. I think he's going to be at the Melbourne Hi-Fi Show. So hopefully everybody can go check him out there as well.
Well, we better say that officially, actually, because I'm going to be at the Melbourne, the StereoNet Melbourne Hi-Fi Show, which is on at the Pullman Hotel in Melbourne on the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st of this month. So listen, any of my Australian family that is going to be at the show, make sure you come up and say hello. You can't miss this bald cranium.
It's very shiny.
It'll be there. I'll give it a spit and polish so it absolutely is gleaming for you. And pop up and say hello. I mean, I'm doing interviews. So I'm going to be flat chat, but I promise you I will find some time to have a chat to you all. So come up and say hello, and it'll be really, really good to see you all at the Melbourne Hi-Fi Show coming up at the end of the month.
Oh, John. Let me just comment. Shane, I'm surprised they let you in there, brother. I mean, with that shiny head, you're going to make a lot of people blind, brother, when you look around. So
I know that.
I'm really surprised they're letting you in.
Wear your sunglasses.
I'm actually looking forward to it.
Wear your sunglasses. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, you had a great coverage last show. You interviewed some amazing folks. I mean, the interviews that you secured last year, dude, were top notch. Only thing that I regret is I'm not going to be there with you this year.
Yeah, well, we got to do this show together, just as we're going to hopefully do Exponent together next year. I'll be in the States, and that'll be lots of fun. And yeah, we'll just rip it up. So same deal. When you get back over here, the show this year is going to be bigger than it's ever been. There's an extra level. The organisers have spoken to me and said we've actually got another whole level of the hotel that we've booked out, and it's all happening there at the Melbourne Hi-Fi Show at the Pullman at the end of the month. So we're going to cover it. I've got some crazy big interviews again this year. Look, everything's just getting bigger for both of us, I guess, bigger and better every year as our families grow, our communities grow, our channels grow. So it's awesome.
Yeah. And you mentioned you're going to be at the Melbourne Hi-Fi Show, which I really wish. I was planning to go out this year, but unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to because I'm moving, I'm relocating. So I'm going to be moving into a new location. So part of what I plan on doing with the community is recording what it takes to pack all this stuff up, 4,000 some records, hi-fi equipment, how to do it the right way. And I'm also going to be sharing a video on how to get your new room set up in a brand new space that you're not familiar with, right? How do you get the room acoustic rights and everything? So I'm going to be breaking that down. But you mentioned what's new and good on my side. I'm testing this out. Does this look familiar? Does it?
That looks very familiar.
This was from Shane. So Shane has me checking out the Lyra Kleos from the Hannah Blue Amami. So I'm getting ready to check this out. We actually spun some records today on this cart, and I got to tell you, man, I'm really impressed. I got to tell you, you know, for not being a major upgrade over the Hannah Umami Blue, this actually sounds like a major upgrade above the Hamami Blue. So I'm really, really grateful for that. I can't wait to dive in some presets I'm deeply familiar with. I had some mates come over today. We did some listening together, and everybody was really impressed, Shane. So super excited about that.
Good. It's a great part. It's been in my system for a little while. I didn't really put a lot of hours on it. But when you said you were looking for something that was a bit different in flavor from what you had, I thought that could be what you need. So I'm glad it's over there safe and sound, and I'm glad it's bolted up to the end of the tone arm and that it's cut and wax.
It is, and it's doing a great job. And today we're going to be talking about hi-fi shows. We're going to be diving into the main topic here in just a moment around hi-fi shows. The state of hi-fi shows, our opinions about them. Are they getting too expensive? Are they getting too unattainable? But we got some folks joining. I don't even know how to say this. Your Grora, I'm sorry, I am butchering this like you wouldn't believe. But John, thank you so much for dialing in. We also have another Aussie dialing in there from Melbourne. Robert Mitchell, thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate it. We have Drago also joining us today, asking Charles some questions. So Charles, you can deal with all that stuff offline, I guess. But Shane, what's new and good in your world, man? Because I saw the Network Acoustics review that you just did, which sounds like a phenomenal switch. But I'm kind of curious, though. I think you did a lot of that review with those bookshelf speakers that you were also evaluating. Did you ever have a chance to listen to them on the Wilsons, or did you get the Wilsons back at a room? What's going on with your system, brother?
Well, I've been pretty busy yesterday, actually. I've had the Osborne EOS Elite reference and the standard EOS in the room, which I've been looking at for the channel for review. And so they've been what's been rotating backwards and forwards for a little while now. And I've done essentially all of my listening with the Network Acoustics Tempest switch with the Osborne speakers, the epitomes before those. Got a bit of news to break for everybody. The green monsters are back in the room.
About time. You've had those Osbornes in there for a long time. You had the, I think, you had the,
the epitomes.
Yeah.
I had the big epitomes, and then from there, Greg brought over the his smallest speaker, and they've been in the room while we've been doing some. I've been checking those out and compiling a review on those, which is coming soon. But it was time to move the Wilsons back in the room. I need to refresh my palette for my reference again, because I will be getting Greg's absolute flagship speaker, the Grand Monuments, in. Hopefully we'll do that after the hi-fi show. So I wanted to get back to
right. That's the
that's their big boys. Yeah, that's his big boys. So that they're coming in the room, and at that point, I guess we're gonna be. I want to have a baseline for my reference again to refresh my audio palette. But the Network Acoustic switch has been an absolute revelation. It's staying. I'm keeping it in the system. I'm just hearing too much stuff that was obviously in the streams that I wasn't able to discern. There were things you could hear there, but you couldn't really make out what those things were. And it's almost like a tide running out, and you see what was under the water. There's more going on in the stream that we just don't know is there. And when you get to lowering the noise floor and that ground plane, really being clean, you hear more in the stream. There was that track I spoke of in the review about a movement from, I think it's probably Lindsey Buckingham in in the song Chains from Rumors, the Fleetwood Mac album, right at the beginning when they roll tape. Obviously, he's getting seated. I assume it's Lindsey Buckingham. It's in the left channel because there's a guitar that's being moved around, an acoustic guitar. I can even tell by what it sounds like that it's a wooden guitar of an acoustic variety. And then bang, they first chord is struck, and you go, and I always knew there was a rustle there, but I didn't know what it was. Now I'm able to absolutely concentrate and discern that this is what it is, and reed movement and valve movement in classical pieces that, you were just not even there to hear. All of a sudden you hear all of that mechanical action in the recordings. It's one of those things. Once you hear it, you can't give it away.
Yeah, it's like restoring a record with the Kermis system, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's you get further into that groove, you get more out of that record. Then that's what's going on. My review for that, the Kermis machine, is coming. I'm not finished yet. There's too much going on. I appreciate your lovely work on that review, mate. You did a lot of work there. I know you did. And I'm sure, and Charles, I know, is happy with a well-balanced, honest review of the system. And I know I've spoken to Charles since then, and yeah, he's very, very happy with an honest and unbiased review.
Yeah, if folks are tuning in, we're going to talk about the Hi-Fi Show in here in a second, but we're talking about the Kermis vinyl restoration system. I think I try to be honest as possible, right? So, being Vinyl Latte, I know the folks that dial into my channel, they're vinyl lovers, they're passionate collectors. They really, a lot of them seek out Grail records, original pressings. A lot of the stuff that they collect are the rare stuff, right? That's where a lot of people, I think, in my community kind of live. And I think for those folks, the system makes a lot of sense. I think I was clear about what I hear and what I was able to measure. There is a gap there. Some of that stuff I can't explain, but one thing that didn't lie was my ears. You can actually hear a difference with the system versus some of the other ultrasonics and cleaning systems that I use. The other thing that I would just be honest with is that I did try to be unbiased. I had other folks come in that had no idea. Listen, hold on, let me show you. So people, because I was challenged on this yesterday. I literally did buy multiple pressings of records just to test the system. So I would have a control. I could clean one in another ultrasonic. I can do a brush clean. Like this is real. When people are like, you didn't do this multiple records. No, I did. I got multiple pressings of records so I can do A, B, C, D testing. And I did all baselines before I did any of the cleaning to make sure that they were all baseline the same. So I bring that up because what you can hear sometimes and what you can measure are different. And some things you can't explain. Shane, just like when you did the Stein perfect interface map, there was things you couldn't explain that was going on. Like scientifically, it's like, how the hell is this possible? It's doing two different things that contradict each other for a rice paper thin mat. It's the same thing with this cleaner. I can't explain it, but it is what it is. That's the result. So if you want to go through the effort for that, then carry on. I mean, like that's your thing. If you don't want to do it, that's up to you. But these are passionate record collectors. You want the best sounding record you could possibly have.
These are your instruments to confirm what you are hearing. And I think as far as audiophiles are concerned, what we want is look, my channel works on, I'm not going to tell everybody about numbers and measurements and this, because look, honestly, I think the majority of audiophiles couldn't give a flying fat rat's clacker about, and I cleaned that up, let me tell you, about the absolute numbers of everything, because I've heard DACs that measure off the planet and they sound like rubbish. And I've heard other DACs that don't measure well and they have that beautiful first, second, third order harmonic that just fleshes out the mid-range and the humanity in the voice, and then they sound wonderful. And I think that's what audiophiles are all about. They don't care about numbers. What they want is something that sounds as close to the capture as possible. And that's the issue with the Kermis that I absolutely would say is that when I'm doing records sneak peek, I am getting an improvement in the sound that I hear. Yeah. And I think that's where the rubber hits the road. I really think that's what people will invest the time to restore their records want. and that's what will be fleshed out in my review too when I get.
It all depends what you're getting out of it. And I got to be honest with you, if you're running a low or a mid-fi system, and it's fine if you are, that's great. That's how I started.
Yep.
If that's the type of system you're running, you probably won't notice the drastic difference, right? Just like when I would buy an audiophile pressing and I would have a standard cut, it would really be hard for me to tell the difference. Typically, what I would notice on an audiophile pressing versus a standard like GZ cut of an album was like it was a little bit a better noise floor, right? It was a lower noise floor, it was a little bit blacker background, and maybe a little bit more dynamic, but I couldn't tell the intimate details. Not until I got in a very resolving system that can actually extract all that stuff out of the music, where I really started to say, holy crap, there is a drastic difference from pressing. Yeah. And today I had some of my mates come over. I had 5 of my local vinyl folks that are in the community come over today to kind of listen to the system and stuff. And they brought different pressings, and we did some A/B comparison. I pulled different records from my shelf that they brought their pressings, and we all could hear very clearly, the whole room consensus could hear the difference of the pressings, right? And we could hear about how the mastering and how the different dynamics are and how the different instruments come out on this pressing, but maybe not so much in this. And it's like overemphasis on the piano here, but this one favors the saxophone. And like you could tell, even sometimes the way that the sound shifted from the right and left channel was different because the mastering engineer did it a little bit differently on the album and the pressing. When I had a modest system, I will say that because I think this is is unreasonable. But when I had a modest system, I didn't hear as much of that. I got to be honest with you. I didn't hear the drastic difference, right? So I think for those that have really invested a lot of time and care in their records and a lot of time and care in their stereo system, you're going to hear the difference. But maybe we should pivot to the topic of the day. Shane, what do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's what everyone's here for. Let's talk about I thought this was a great thing. And when you and I got talking about what we'd have as a topic where it's just you and me talking, which we're going to do on and off when we don't, we weren't going to bring a guest in every single time. We're just going to,
you're not a guest. You're Mr. Aussie Audiophile. I thought you were the guest.
Oh, I guess I am.
What am I doing here, man? I thought you were the guy of honor today.
Yeah, you're running the show. I'm just here to not look good.
I just click comments. That's all I do. That's my job.
No, you do far more than that, mate. But I wanted to get into the whole process of the audiophile industry, of the industry in general, and the hi-fi. Look, what's value, what's not value anymore? Where's the industry going? Can we afford when we go to these hi-fi shows? Can we afford some of the stuff that's in some of these rooms? And I want to hear from our audience. I want them to post up their comments and tell us what they say, and we're going to bounce off their ideas. This is a real audience participation live stream, this one. It always is, but this one I really think emphasizes that. And we've got some talking points, haven't we? And I guess the first one we probably should just rustle straight into without mucking around is the health of the industry. So what do you think, mate?
I mean, when it comes to hi-fi, okay, so let's break this down. I think there's 2 different takes here. Let me start out with, I think, what is probably on top of a lot of folks' mind. And then I'm going to contradict myself here while we get through this, right? So I've been to a couple hi-fi shows this year. And when you walk through the hi-fi shows, there are some $2-3 million rooms in there. It's very unattainable stuff, right? Even if you're a hi-fi person, you're like, there is no way in hell I can ever afford this. And even if it's not 2-3 million, some of it is $500,000 or $300,000. They're like, oh, this speaker is 250 grand. And the DAC is, 100 grand, right? Like you hear this stuff and it's just like, holy crap. I did a video. I think it's like a $250,000 turntable, right? Like it's the cost of a house, mate. You can buy a fucking, excuse the language, you could buy a property for the turntable, right? Yep. It is very unattainable for 99.9% of the population out on earth. And this is the stuff that's at the hi-fi show, right? So you go there and you're a buyer. And I will tell you, there's a couple trends I see. I see what I would call the folks of legacy, the people have really built this industry, the people that the gray hairs of the industry, if I could say that, with being the most respectful I can. And those guys, they love listening to this stuff. They always love listening to almost the unattainable stuff. They love looking at the Ferrari, right? And they love dreaming like, oh, one day this was always my passion. I remember having a poster of this car on my, and they love that. They love that. But they're not really, to me, they're not the buyer, mate. That they already have their system for the most part. They might be looking for a component, but they're not looking for a complete system, right? And then you have what I feel like the new generation. And there's a younger generation, I think, getting into hi-fi. And I think some of this is the vinyl revival, if you don't mind me saying. Now I think this year, maybe a little bit of the CD generation. And what they're doing is they're realizing that Spotify and headphones isn't the best experience for music. They're realizing that a home system, a 2-channel system, is the right way for music, right? And I'm seeing more and more folks that are younger attending hi-fi shows than I have in the past. Usually when I used to go to a hi-fi show, I was like the youngest bloke there. Now I feel like I'm one of the older folks there, and or at least middle-aged folks there. Like either I'm getting older or the folks are getting younger. I'm not really sure what's going on.
Probably both.
It's probably both. But what I noticed though is those cats, one, they're on a budget. And two, they're not looking to spend $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 on a component. They're looking to spend maybe 10 grand total on a complete system, right? Or 15 or whatever their budget might be, right? So it's a completely, I feel like in some of these hi-fi shows, when I talk to guests, because for the channel, I always like to ask people, like, what do you think of the show? What did you enjoy the most? What do you like? And most of the folks like, it was really cool. But there's nothing here I can afford. There's nothing here that I feel like I'm going to put on my want list, on a budget list, because everything that I saw is just crazy priced. And it's not saying those rooms don't exist, but they're buried. Out of 400 rooms at a big hi-fi show, there's maybe 10 that have the affordable rooms, because everybody else is bringing their Ferraris and Lamborghinis and whatever to the show, and nobody's bringing their Hondas and their Toyotas to the show. There's only a few people that are actually doing that in some of these hi-fi shows. At least that's what I'm seeing in the States, Shane. I don't know how it is for you there in Australia, but that's what I've been seeing.
There's some big brands, of course. Look, from my point of view, and if we're taking the gloves off here, it's just turning into a pissing contest. That's what it's turning into. It's like, who's who at the zoo, and I don't like where that is going. Look, I mean, I can't talk. I mean, I've got a pretty impressive hi-fi system, but I didn't start there.
I didn't either.
I'm 54 years old. Like, I'm old.
Holy shit!
And
you're ancient.
And I didn't start there. I started with a little Pioneer, 3-in-1, with a set of shitty speakers off lamp cord. That's where I started. And then slowly over the course of my life, working at hi-fi shops as I did, at really good hi-fi shops, which is probably what wrecked me. Why I've got no money, because it's all in my listening room. But as I've gone through the years, you build up, you slowly get there, and there is a level of aspiration that is healthy, that should be there in the industry. But this is the bit that I worry about. It's about watching young kids, as I've done at the shows I go into a room. They're fully impressed with what they hear. They go, wow, and they're digging their mate, and they're going, oh, look at that, listen to that. And then they go over and look at the price sheet, right? And then you just see them go, and you see the disappointment in their eyes, because they want that, but they're never at this stage in their life going to be able to afford it. So that's the bit, that's the bit that worries me, is because I've heard people say at that point, oh, mate, I can't afford this. And they walk out of the room.
Right. You're right. And it really makes you question, like, what are these hi-fi shows for? Are they for consumers to actually get interested in buying a product? Or are they really for distribution to find new companies they want to go procure and add to their book, a business? And I think it's a combination of both. But when everything's unattainable, you're really only satisfying one audience, right? You are really only bring in products to kind of surprise, shock, and awe. So the last hi-fi show I was with a couple friends, and both of them walked away with like, there's stuff I liked, but there's things but I will never be able to afford them. So there's no way I can ever add them, right? Like they literally walked away from a hi-fi show with nothing they're interested in buying because everything they were interested in was too expensive.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is the thing that I worry about. Yeah. And that's the thing that I worry about as well. If you know, we're in that middle tier of age group with when it comes to audiophiles, and I really, really think that to progress this industry, this hobby, we need to be attracting the next generation of kids. Now, look, I'm going to give a shout out to Michael Fremer here because Michael is, I think, really responsible for the vinyl resurgence.
He is.
And he has enthused, he's become, or got us all enthusiastic about buying records again and listening to records again. And I think, and young people are doing that, you know, and you know, like for instance, I was watching an interview that he did with Guido from Anna Dialogue.
Yeah, that's just recent. It came out this week, right? Yeah.
And Michael said something that I laughed, but then I checked myself and went, because I'm in of an era where I bought records. I bought my first record with probably my mum's money at 12 years old. And that's what started me, and off I went from there. But we learned from our parents how to handle records. Yeah. And Michael said in this thing, you've got actually to teach this new generation that you don't put your hands all over the record. You know, there's a way to hold a record.
Oh,
and when I heard that, I thought, what's he doing? And then I thought, of course. I mean, these people just will not really understand that process of leaving oil and fingerprints and everything all over a record. And it made sense. And I thought, well, that's good because it's caring for that next generation. So it's a shout out to Michael. Yeah. We hope to have him here on the show here.
So this isn't Kermit yet, but like when people do this on YouTube and to show off a record, it drives me insane, man.
Yeah.
What are you doing? And Charles brings up a good point. The one thing I got to give Michael credit for is that some of the more affordable stuff he's been given a lot of credit to. That Victrola turntable that Michael actually gave good reviews to. I actually have that turntable. It's kind of in the family house, so if anybody wants to play records, they can use that one. I'm not having them touch this one. This is Louis V only touching. The other turntable people can touch, and there's select records they can use on that player. But it's actually a decent sounding record for $900. It's a good sounding record, which I think I never would have said before with a Victrola player. So there are some companies coming out with some very affordable equipment that sounds good, and I'm glad to hear some of the more senior folks in the industry that have been writing about hi-fi all this time to say, hey, some of this more affordable equipment isn't bad. Is it as good as a $10,000 turntable with a $5,000 or $6,000 cartridge? No, but it is actually pretty good for the value for the money, and it's where most people want to be when they invest in a turntable or they invest into an audio system.
Yeah, look, I agree. We've got to just promote that the lower end of the entry level of the market, because look, this is what happens. Let's not beat around the bush here. You buy in there, and then you're on the aspirational ladder from that point on. You want the next best thing, and then the next best thing, and then the next, and then you start moving up. Now, there'll be a point where all of us have to stop and we can't go anymore, and because money doesn't allow, and that's
I thought it was stay in the grave, brother. I didn't know it was a money issue. I thought it was a time issue.
I mean, so I don't mind that. That's fine. We can get to a point where you get to your nirvana. You're the best I've ever heard, and where you're happy, and that's fine. Now, I just saw a comment there from somebody saying that hi-fi shows are like shopping at Harrods instead of Kmart on a Kmart budget. And, you know, and that's true. It really is true. We go into these places and we allow ourselves to think, maybe I can find that next thing I want. And then, you know, well, often that next thing we want is our reach financially. And what I worry about is the industry cannibalizing itself.
Yeah.
Now, what I mean by that is, what I'm worried about at the top end of this market, there is a new amplifier that comes out, which is a redesign of the chassis. It's got maybe another $100 worth of different bits inside it.
Small upgrade.
And it's $20,000 more expensive than the last model.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sorry, but that you're killing yourself. A note to the industry: you're killing yourself.
Some of this stuff is crazy, mate. Because you look back, like prices 5 or even 10 years ago, and it's some of this hardware that you could buy now for hi-fi is like double the cost. And listen, if you live in the States, I get now there's tariffs and all that stuff. I'm not going to get into political stuff. I'm not going to say that's right or wrong. That's a different show. But when you also track that price internationally, so you look at what the price costs in Europe and what do you look at it costs in Australia, because I always look for you too, you can see that the price is not just more expensive here in the States because we're importing in and there's increased costs. The components, to your point, are they've skyrocketed for the amount of innovation that has gone into them. To your point, $200 more of innovation, and then they mark it up like 50% off of the previous model, and it's like, well, what are you doing? Who can afford it?
It is self-cannibalization. That's what I think it is.
Yeah.
It is.
And some of those changes, Shane, they're not better products. The Mark I is better than a Mark II in certain cases.
Yeah, but what worries me is that there is this race to the bottom, if you like, in the reverse, in the sense that companies are out trying to outdo each other. If somebody puts their price there, right, that gives us the green light to put our price there. And you just can't keep doing this, folks.
You're right.
Because your bandwidth of customers is going like this.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just not going to sell gear. It's going to get to the point where all we do, like that comment said, is you go in there and you look at the pretty Ferraris and the Lamborghinis and you walk out with nothing. Exactly. And often you walk out discouraged. And the moment you do that to an audiophile, right, the moment you're going to lose half of them. Yeah, and that means the industry. That means the people that allow the industry to survive, that base of buyers will start shrinking, and it'll get to a point where the industry will implode upon itself. And I don't want to see that happening. And that's why I'm bringing this up. I mean, there'll be people that'll think I'm bonkers, and I mean, I don't mind if there's pushback, but that's my opinion of it all. Says a guy that's got a $500,000 audio system. I mean, but what I'm saying is that there is a point where just rising prices at this degree that we're doing now. Now, I get that manufacturing costs go up. I get that individual component prices go up. I understand all that. But this is gouging at its most obscene, as far as I'm concerned, at the top end of the market.
Well, there was a comment. We're going to take a break here in a second, Shane, and go through some of these comments because we got some really great comments. But Charles actually threw up a comment here I had up earlier, $23,000 for a power cord. You know, the sad part is once that generation of model is obsolete and they come out with a new version, that power cord will be on sale for like $1,000. So the markup is insane on some of this stuff. And I'm just exaggerating here. It probably won't be actually $1,000, but I've seen plenty of times where speaker cables and audio cables that come out, they're 10, 20 grand. And then when they come out with a new model, all of a sudden you can go to Music Direct. This is where, I'd be honest with you, I bought a lot of my stuff in the past, the previous model version of stuff from Music Direct. And this is a shameless plug. I get nothing. Go shop at Music Direct. I get a 0-cent commission for referring you over there. But I bought power cables and I bought audio cables from there that were the previous generation. And they're like 80, 90% off of the regular retail price. Did that just show? And here's the thing. Here's the things to remember, because I was in retail for a long part of my life. They're still making money. The manufacturer's still making money, the distributor's still making money, and the retailer is still making money, yet they're still able to offer you an 80% off price on a clearance product. Think about that. Okay. So that's how much freaking markup they have on some of this stuff.
Let's use this as let's use this as if I walk into my local car dealership, right? and I say, oh, I like that car there. How much is that? And they tell me, well, it's $100,000. Okay. Well, look, I'll give you 50 for it. Right? They're going to laugh me out the door.
They will.
But if I walk into a high-end audio shop and I go, oh, that's a lovely amplifier. How much is that? 100,000. I'll give you 50 for it. Right? Come on, like, give me a chop out. You know, like, give me a discount. You are likely to walk out of there at least 35 to 40 points off the sticker price.
Yeah.
So what are these sticker prices? It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Pardon my language, but I get passionate about this. It's all rubbish. It's
filter show with us, Shane, apparently.
You know, I mean, look, I just don't get it. And this is what I'm talking about. This is why I wanted to do this show today, and why I thought we should talk about this topic, because it is getting out of control. Not even the sticker prices are taken seriously anymore.
Yeah.
And to your point about power cables, we're not all stupid. How many of us realize that? And we're not buying the new stuff. Now, if that's starting to happen now, this is what I'm talking about. The cancer cells have been set. So that means that cancer starts to grow. And what happens? The top of the industry starts dying off because they run out of customers. Nobody's going to pay that kind of money for things because they'll wait. And then what happens, right? You've got the millionaires of the world and the buying all that stuff at whatever price they buy it at. And then you see it turn up on Audiogon, or you see it turn up on you know, over here at Aussie Audio Mart and places like that. And you think, Jesus, look how cheap that is now. Exactly. And I'll be honest, I've bought a lot of my audio systems secondhand like that as well. I didn't pay new prices for things. My name's Billy, not silly. You know, like I'm not buying that kind of gear, or I get an industry, you know, chop out for something. That is. So what I'm saying is these prices that are set at when you walk in the door, and what I'm saying about that is that these young kids that are going into these into these audiophile shows, hi-fi shows, and they're seeing that price, they don't have the wherewithal to say, oh, look, what can you do on that?
Yeah.
Looking at the price, becoming discouraged, and walking out.
All right, you're spot on. I'm going to flip us so it doesn't look like I'm staring off into oblivion. So hopefully that appears better. Sorry, guys. I have to look in a weird angle because I'm looking to the chat. But we're going to hit some comments here in the chat here. So we have a comment about records that are gone. Really, I'm assuming this means that records are getting outpriced and CDs are becoming a thing. And I'll tell you the reason why of that is because a lot of the vinyl revival around vinyl was around college students or younger folks that were getting into wanting to own something physical. And now they go to the record store and every record, even the new ones, like $40 or $50 brand new. And then they go and look and like, oh, I want this pre-owned record. It's $150, $200. Well, I can buy a whole collection of CDs for the same price. And now those same buyers are trading in their records that they bought. They're putting that credit towards CDs and they're buying CDs now because they still want to own something physical because they're realizing digital is, you know, you never know what you get. I was talking to somebody today that is not a vinyl person, is not a CD person. But what they shared with me was very apparent. They said, the problem I have with digital is every time I have an album I like, within a couple months, it gets remastered and it's a different version and it sounds different than what I enjoyed it with. Or some of the tracks start getting grayed out and I don't have the full album anymore. And I think the younger generation is tired of that. They want to own something physical in a world of everything is streaming. Your applications on your computer, the apps on your phone, your TV service, your movies, everything is just so digital these days. You don't own anything. Being able to buy a physical media allows you to own something physical, but also allows you to support the artists. And I think the CD generation or the CD movement this year, specifically, it seems to be this year is really booming, is because people are just tired of the gouging on records. Records are becoming extremely expensive. Extremely expensive.
It gets down to everything that this topic is about. It's about the gouging of audiophiles in every way, shape, or form. Charles makes a good point there at the top of the comments. Record licensing is a big deal.
Yes.
As to the cost of labels. Well, my point to that is if again, it's a race to the bottom by climbing up the unobtainium ladder.
That's
So
right.
we keep charging more for licensing costs. Therefore, that's got to be passed on to people. You're going to kill it off. You are going to kill the industry. If you, by doing this, we are in nothing but I can foresee a huge problem coming down the track where the industry starts becoming, incestuous again, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and we're back to where we were. And then all of a sudden it becomes too expensive to do any of this stuff anymore. So the whole industry shrinks, and we're back to where we were in the late 90s and the 2000s, where nobody was talking about records anymore on the record front, but even on the hi-fi front. If this keeps going like it does, like it's going now, like I foresee it going, it is going to get to the point where we're just not going to be. Look, incomes are dropping around the world. They're not going up. So therefore, there's less disposable income in the world now for the majority of people. I mean, the richest 10% are getting obscenely rich, and the poor will be the poor, but the middle class is shrinking. Economies are shrinking.
I would agree with that.
So what's happening here is we are getting less and less disposable income for our hobbies.
I agree.
And yet this is absolutely lost on the industry. The industry are
getting more and more expensive. More and more expensive. Well, we got a comment from Charles about Exfona. That their room is a very large show. If you all never been to Exfona, it is one of the largest hi-fi shows probably put on. They take over a whole entire conference center to put this show on. And this year they even had a car show, home theater. They've done a lot of different things that they haven't done before because the show's getting that big. And they don't show pricing on the room. So you have to actually walk in the room. You have to ask for the price sheet. There's no price sheet on the outside of the room. So you don't know what you're walking into until you get situated and ask like, hey, what's this stuff cost? And I think that is pissing off the new generation. I completely concur with that. I think that some of these hi-fi shows, sometimes I feel like they should be budget oriented, of like even color coded, of like, here's your super high end, here's your mid range, and then here's your budget friendly stuff. So then people can make plans. When you go to Exfona, here's the problem with Exfona, guys. I don't know if you realize this. If you've never been, you probably don't. But here's the problem with Exfona. There's no way you can see the whole show in a weekend. It's too big. So you have to make the best of your time. And if you're somebody who's even going there with a weekend pass or a one-day pass, you're going to spend a lot of time just trying to find the right room that's within your budget so you can hear things that are to your budget. And the problem is everybody's bringing a lot of very, very, very expensive gear to those events. So you're going to spend a lot of time just trying to go from room to room to room to room, just trying to find something that you say, well, this is within my budget range. And now I'm going to sit down and actually see if it's something I want to consider. And I think what some of these the smaller shows are, you can visit the whole show in a weekend, but some of these larger shows where you can't because they got too big, I think they need a way to filter out, to identify the right buyer and align them to the right room, right? To make it a better experience for the people that are coming in with a budget to the room. I don't know what you think about it, but that's my thought.
Yeah, but I think we all want to see the Ferraris and the Lambos. We all want to see that.
If you know where they're at, you can go look at them.
Yeah, true. There should be a better way of organizing. Now, Robert makes a really good point here too, and it's got to do with centralization. He says, I can buy a record from a record store in Australia for about $80, and that's what they cost here for a decent record, our funny money over here in Australia. But on Amazon, it's $60. And so it's killing the local record stores. And again, this is the centralization, the globalization of everything. This is going to happen. I don't think there's any way around this. The distances between us all, even though physically they're no smaller, they have become smaller by virtue of the dispatch systems we have now, the mailing systems, the shipping ways we do things. Everything is getting like that. So I don't know. I don't really have much of an answer for that one, Robert. I do.
I kind of do. I mean, I don't know about y'all in Australia. Listen, sometimes Amazon sells the same press that you can get at a record store. And I'm going to touch on that in a moment. But sometimes they offer Amazon exclusive pressings, which are really cheap pressings, by the way. I personally, for somebody like me who's a passionate record collector, I avoid them like the plague. It's like buying a Walmart press. And sorry, Walmart, I don't mean you to come out and sue
It
me
probably
for
came
saying
off a
that.
CD, mate.
Yeah, it's not a good quality pressing. But also, you have to remember Amazon is buying in bulk. They're buying a ton of those records. Your local record store is buying maybe 2 or 3 or 5 of those records, right? And they're going to put them on a shelf, which takes floor space for them, right? And they're going to sit on that money until you buy it. And some of these record stores are going to sit on that record for months or years. That is going to take up space in a record store until it's sold. And they're carrying a lot. Amazon doesn't care. They make so much money and profit from everything else that they sell and buy at wholesale that them having a shelf or a section or a warehouse that has records in it is not a big deal to them, right?
No.
So they're able to swing that big, I'll profanity struck, but they're able to swing that big enter your mind. And they're able to leverage that to be able to get those prices. It's kind of like Walmart. It's like if you go to salon to buy shampoo, it's more money there at the salon than it is at Walmart. Why? Because the salon is an intimate boutique shop where they're only, if you look at their shelf, they have like 3 of those shampoos on their wall. That's it. And they're trying to make a profit from that. Amazon doesn't care. They're going to make $1, $2 profit from that record, but they're going to sell 1,000 of them. And your local shop is going to sell 10 of them, and they're going to try to make $5-10 profit on each one. That's why there's
and this is what I'm talking about, you know, conglomerations and decentralization and centralization, which where the big markets are engulfing the smaller operators. And it's to Robert's point that I get what you're saying, Louis, but I think that there's this takeover mentality with people like Bezos and, you know, and people that own these multi-zillion dollar, you know, conglomerations where they're centralizing everything and then controlling the narrative. The thing that I worry about with that is that once they've got that market share, then we're all in trouble.
Well, that's
because
true.
There's no competition anymore, and prices, I guarantee you, are only going one way.
Yeah.
So that is a massive concern moving forward, whether we're actually going to ever get what you'd call a decent, you know, value for money record anymore. And to your point about there is, and I did read somewhere, but I can't remember who it was now. I was looking down the comments, but they're flying along. Charles is
We're going to pause for a moment and go through some comments here, rapid fire, Shane, but carry on.
But my point about that is that yes, there so many. Again, I'm referencing to Guido's interview with Michael. Michael made a great point that I agree with him as well. Is that people are going to see 3 or 4 of the same record when they're browsing through a record. There's going to be one there for $18. There's going to be another one for $25, another one for $40, and another one for $60. But what they don't know is that the $60 one's an original pressing that's cut from tape, right? And the one up there at $18 is some nasty copy that is essentially a black large CD.
Yeah.
That you play with your record player. And I mean, I've had records like that. I've bought them and gone, oh no, that's, I can ex-sound engineer. I know straight away what I'm listening for. I probably need to be looking further into the dead wax or having a good look at where that's come from, so I actually know what I'm buying. But
it's not always the case, though, Shane. I mean, most of the time you're correct, but it's not always the case. There's some audiophile records out there that, quite frankly, doesn't need to be an audiophile pressing.
Yeah,
I think we're seeing an age of just money grabbing from certain companies reissuing records that have been reissued countless times at a more affordable price that sound amazing for $30. And now you're seeing $150 one-step version of it. And it's like, for what? And sometimes those $150 one-step versions don't sound as good as the cheaper version you could buy at the store. It's not always the case, is what I'm saying. You are right, though. From a standard situation, yes, most of the time that really cheap pressing doesn't sound good, and that will turn people off of vinyl because they're like, oh, I bought the $18 pressing, I took it home, it sounds like crap. My Spotify version on my phone sounds better. I've literally seen people have that interaction where like, yeah, I tried to get into records, but the records I had sounded like crap because they were buying VG or less quality records because they didn't know any better about quality. So they were just buying anything they saw. They were like, oh, I like Aerosmith, so I just buy the Aerosmith record, not even look at the vinyl itself. And then I see people that buy these really cheap pressings of records and they're like, it sounds horrible. Or they just don't have the right equipment, right? They're running on a Crosley or whatever table. And I'm not trying to knock Crosley.
Yeah.
Crosley got a lot of folks into the turntable game, but you're not going to get high fidelity from a Crosley player, and nor did they market that way. Hell, the guy on Vinyl Nation, if you watch the show Vinyl Nation, the spokesperson from Crosley, when they show his house, he runs an Audio-Technica turntable at his house. He didn't run a freaking Crosley, right? So that should be all telling that the guy that is the spokesperson from Crosley doesn't even run a Crosley turntable at home. Right? I mean, that should be eye-awakening, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is all about this topic that we're bringing to our audience today. It's all about, we want to have this discussion about what you guys think about what's going on in the industry, because both Louis and I have got some strong opinions, and that's why we thought this is a great topic on the Audiophile Show, so we can flesh this thing out. We can get into it and find out exactly what we all think about it.
Well, I'm going to contradict myself here in a moment, but we got a lot of comments here. So we got John saying that the last hi-fi show he showed up to seemed like a massive advertisement campaign for a dealer. I've seen that.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, they have half of the rooms at the show or whatever. I totally, I see that, and that could be very frustrating, especially when you're looking for diversity and what kind of equipment. There definitely seems to be a bias when somebody kind of dominates the entire show with their product line, right?
Well, look, you know what it is, and I'm going to bang into this too. There's a lot of very fragile egos in this industry. To be a reviewer these days and be unbiased and be honest is a very difficult line to walk. I think you can, both of us can talk, which we won't, but both of us can talk about situations where we feel a little bit like we've been manhandled, and that a position is being, narrated for us. And I won't work with people like that. My reviews are my opinion. Look, I'm just another jackass on YouTube that's mouthing off about something he's had a listen to. I'm a dime a dozen. But what I want to be that's different, as I know you do, and that's why you and I work together, is we want to be somewhere where someone can go and get a bloody honest opinion, and an opinion that is honest.
That's why we don't sell products, Shane. I mean, you and I, we have the ability to go resell products and distribute products and be like, hey, buy from us and you'll get 10%. We don't do any of that because we feel like that will create bias in our product videos, etc. Right? So that's why we both don't do that. You know?
Yeah, I mean, there's YouTubers out there that are salesmen. They're YouTube shills. That's what they are. They're out there flogging their products because they rely.
I hate to say it, but some of them are, brother.
Yeah, they rely on convincing you that their product is the thing to buy because they're relying on that income to pay their bills and live their life. I'll be honest. I'll tell everybody here. I make about $150 a week on YouTube, a month on YouTube.
A week?
That would be pretty
for a really big moment,
right?
Holy shit, I'm wrong.
Well, no, about that a month I make on YouTube, and I don't need it. I mean, I'm not trying to be elitist here, but that's not why I do this.
You make 150, Shane, but your costs more because your email, your branding, all that stuff costs. All that stuff takes money. Your time,
it's net negative revenue.
Because a lot of times you have to pay for shipping to send things back. And that might be $20, $30, $40, but it eats into the money that you make in YouTube. So the only way that you can actually profit from having a big channel, this is coming from a guy that has almost 14,000 followers, is that the only way you can do it, mate, is by selling product. That's why these folks turn to pushing their own product. Yeah. And where I have an issue with that is when something sucks and then they're able to resell it and all of a sudden it's the greatest thing in the world. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of folks out there that have done that pivot of, I hate this product. This sucks. This is not. And I see a lot in the vinyl world. It's like, oh, this pressing sucks. Wait, hold on. I have a record store. Now I can sell the record. Oh, this is the best pressing I ever heard.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Really?
And if
Really?
if you can't see through that, then I mean, we're all smart people here. Let's be honest. I mean, look at that and see that for what it is. You know, I mean, I'm just not. I know you and I don't work like that, and I don't do this channel. This channel is net negative revenue for me. It costs me to do this, right?
Yeah,
the amount of time I put into this, what I do, but I do it because I want to further the hobby. I want to bring more people into the hobby. I want people to be excited about listening to music, and that's why I know you do it, and that's our justification for why we're here. We're not here to make money, because you ain't going to make money on a YouTube channel unless you've got 1 million subs and you've got deals going on behind the scenes everywhere, which I don't.
No. You have to trade your soul with the devil, man. You have to sell yourself out to make money
Absolutely.
on this
Yeah.
from a YouTube standpoint. We got big wigs lining our pockets for the retirements to sell company. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's definitely people in the industry right now that are just looking at cash out. I agree with that, TLK. Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Charles makes a comment here about me listening to Margules in Exfona. I got to tell you, Margules' room was my second favorite room in the entire Exfona, and I visited nearly every room in the 3 days that I was there. The only room that beat Margules was almost a $1.5 million room. And I think the Margules stuff was 15 grand for everything. Speakers, amp, DAC, everything. The entire setup was 15 grand out the door. And I felt like the only thing that rivaled it was a $1.5 million system. I would totally say. And what was cool about the Margules room to me is there was no acoustic treatment whatsoever at all. So they didn't manipulate the room, etc. I like when rooms are a little bit acoustically treated, because I think a lot of these square hotel rooms that they do, they destroy the sound. So you want to be able to hear it, but it rivaled the rooms that actually did the room of treatment in. Let's see here. We did that one.
I think I'm going to be talking with Julia Margules' daughter with Charles at the Hi-Fi show this year. I'm hoping to get some of their gear into Australia at some point to have on the channel, because it is really in that nice band where it's affordable, but yet it punches miles above its weight. So hopefully, I mean, I won't preempt any reviews I end up getting to do for that gear, but that's what I'm hearing from you and from other people in the industry
it's really good. That Anna technology, Shane, I think you're going to be really impressed, especially when you hear it first person, man. It is.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, Julian has something crazy there. Record stores charging an exorbitant amount of money. I'm just paraphrasing here for records. I agree. The one big problem, as somebody who lives their second life in record stores, one thing I really can't stand is all of them now are pricing on the top end of Discogs. So whatever bloke sold or bought the last record at for an exorbitant amount of money, that's what they're pressing. Is you can have every average sale at $50, but somebody's bought the same record for $300 once on Discogs. They're going to price it for $350. And that has been a pain in the butt with record stores. And it's actually got me buying more from Discogs lately than my own local record store, because they're pricing things outrageously expensive. One of my local shops, I'm not going to name names here because I don't want to put any negative juju out there, because they are my local shop. But like, I am having a hard time buying records there, because every time I look at something, it is 20-30% more than the highest price ever sold on Discogs. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? This is absurd amount of money for a record, man.
Yeah, it is. Look, this is what, again, to why we're talking about this today, because it's not just media, it's equipment, it's Jesus Christ, it's even a cup of coffee when you walk into a hi-fi shop. It's 30% dearer. Do they all think we're millionaires? I really do not quite understand it. Look, and I know it's capitalism, and I know it's greed, and I know exactly what it is, but I just want to shine a light on it, because it's unsustainable. It's not going. People will just stop going, and then what are you going to do? You're going to be paying $5 grand a room to set your gear up, and you're going to get 20 people through all weekend. and they're just going to kick your tires. That's all they're going to do. They're going to kick your tires and thanks very much. Take the complimentary bag of goodies and out they walk. And that's it.
That's it.
And that's not going to sell you anything.
Nope. I agree. Robert has to head out. Thank you so much for joining us, Robert. We got Mr. Kelly here making a comment about my review on the UHQRs. Yeah, I think I'm probably the most fair and balanced. And I'm not trying to toot my own channel, but I try to be fair and balanced. The reason why is because I don't get crap from these companies. A lot of these YouTubers, they get sent records from Analog Productions, Rhino, Craft. They get records sent to them. I buy my stuff. So when I'm reviewing a product, I'm giving you, did I feel like the money I spent was worth it? And I feel like if that's not the case, I'm going to be honest with you. And even if I have had record companies send me records in the past, I have one that won't send me records anymore because I mentioned there was surface noise on the record. But it was true. It was measurable. It was audible. It was enough for me to call out. Now, I will say that particular record, once the music actually came in, you didn't hear the surface noise anymore, but every silent background in the entire album, you heard a level of surface noise. So I called that out. They won't send me records anymore. Not one record. I'm done. They broke my relationship off with them because I was honest. So I don't get free records because I'm an honest reviewer, and I probably pissed off every label out there for the most part, except for maybe one, which again, I'm trying not to bring up names today, but thank you for recognizing that, because I got to be honest with you, those jackets on those Marley records for $150, guys, you deserve better. That is bullshit. That is a horrible thing. This record, $30 record, has a better jacket than that $150 one has. I mean, it's just absurd. It's absurd that they're throwing junk in what is supposed to be a collector's box set. I mean, they can do better. They've proven they could do better. All the AP75 records are better. All of their Silver series or Acoustic Sound series or whatever are better. The stuff they're doing with the Blue Note, Bluesville series with Craft is better. They can prove themselves they can do better, and then they give you crap in their flagship product. And I have a problem with that. I have a problem with you getting crap when you're paying a premium price. That's a problem for me. And I don't like it. And I don't like you being taken advantage of your money. Sorry, Shane. Sorry to deviate to records, but I'm very passionate about that.
Well, we talk about records for a little second longer. I mean, that was my main criticism of the latest 40th anniversary Dire Straits box set. It's not cheap. And yet it was just thrown to, thank God it sounded half decent.
It sounds great, actually. Yeah.
If you were buying that because you thought you were going to get nice artwork and really lovely tip-on covers and stuff like that, I can do better with my colored photocopier. It was not good. And
what was the point of those prints?
Yeah, I know. On matte cardboard that looked like, as I said, like a cheap Chinese colored photocopier would have done a better job. And there, look, and this is again, I know, and it's fantastic because we're staying on topic here. This is what we're talking about. We're getting gouged. I think there's time to say enough's enough. How much money do you people want to make? Do the right thing by your audience and put a product together that someone's going to be proud to own. I mean, as I said, thank God that Dire Straits box set sounded good, of Brothers in Arms, because, you know, if it didn't, I would have torn it a new rear end, I can tell you.
I got to tell you, it was pricey just to get the record, because I got to tell you that the outer box was nice. Everything inside the outer box was not so nice. So they sold me by it's like, never judge a book by the cover. Well, actually, the cover here looked really sexy. Was with the content inside, maybe not. But at least both the San Antonio concert and the Brothers in Arms albums both sounded fantastic. So at least the record sounded good. But I got to give you, I'm 100% with you. And here's somebody from the industry that knows, that gets rooms from hi-fi shows, that some of these rooms can cost $8K or more to rent. And that's a valid point, because all these guys that are bringing their hi-fi stuff, or if they're in the marketplace to try to sell products at a hi-fi show, they're spending a lot of money to be there. And you got to think about this. You're thinking about, okay, it's the cost of the room, but then you have travel expenses, right? And then you have not only just hotel room, you have like food, staffing, all of that stuff. And then you have shipping costs to get the gear. Then you have return equipment. You have insurance that you got to pay for to cover the equipment because somebody might steal it or damage it or trip over or spill a drink on it, right? So you got to pay for event insurance for all of this stuff, right? So we can get very expensive. That 8K probably in reality is like 15K for a company to come and sponsor an event for a weekend. So they sometimes want to bring their higher end stuff because if they sell one, they can make bank on it. And now it paid off for the event versus having to sell 10, which might be hard for them to do. What's your thoughts on that, Shane? You think that's a challenge? You think that some of these hi-fi shows are just charging too much for the rooms and that's kind of pushing dealers and manufacturers to bring high-end gear?
I agree with all of the above. It is a constant. Everybody in this industry's got, they're patting you on the back with one hand while they've got their hand in your hip pocket with the other.
True.
Welcome to the industry. And they're fleecing you for everything they can get out of you. And it's everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And as I keep saying, like a broken record, pardon the pun, it is literally destroying this industry. Hence our conversation here today. There has got to be a rebalancing of things here. It's almost like we've got to take a zero off the end of everything and just rebalance things so that you know it's a hobby and an industry that is survivable, because at this particular point in time, I see the writing on the wall. We're in trouble. We've got to try and find a better way of doing this. I don't know what that is, other than trying to. Everybody's got to be in a collective agreement here to make this work.
The last 3 hi-fi shows I've been to this year have been the lowest attendance that every hi-fi show has had. And even some of the really big ones, right? Where they've said, hey, we had a great turnout, but it just hasn't been as good as the previous year. And I think about, why is that the case? Why is it less attended? And I think it all comes down to priority and budget. One, I think that a lot of these hi-fi shows are outpricing the attendance, and they know going there, they're just almost wasting time. The second thing is that I think that, quite frankly, we are getting so disconnected from what people want at these shows. And what I mean by that is, we all think that people want the next level of enjoyable equipment. I'm going to try to explain this. I don't really have a good way to explain it, but I'm going to try to. Most folks that go to these shows, unless they're crazy idiots like you and I, Shane, most of the folks, they just want a modest system. They're looking for something that fits in a nice small footprint, that doesn't take a lot of real estate, that sounds reasonably good. They're not looking for best perfection. They know they come in and like, I know I can't afford the Wilson speakers or whatever, right? But I'm looking for something nice. I'm looking for something that's spouse approval, whether it's men or women, it doesn't matter. I'm looking for something my significant other will approve of. I'm looking for something that's going to fit into my home. And a lot of these shows don't offer that. They offer these big monster subwoofers and amplifiers, and you need special this and that to get it up and running. And I don't think that the hi-fi shows are speaking to today's consumers and their buying needs. I don't know what your thoughts there. I know that there's 2 really good shows in Australia that I believe you attend every year. What has that been for you the last year or 2? Have you seen shifts in that? Have you seen buyer shifts or maybe a decrease in attendance in Australia? I'm kind of curious about that, Shane.
Well, funny, this StereoNet Melbourne Hi-Fi show that's on this year at the end of the month is going to be the biggest one we've had in living memory anyway, in a long, long time. More exhibitors, more as far as attendance goes. I probably need to talk to Mark about that and see what's going on with numbers there.
Yeah, you almost won't know until the event happens, right?
Yeah, for this one, and I need to probably do a little bit of research to be able to give a definitive answer there. From my gut feeling, it seemed to be fairly well patronized last year. But Sunday was a bit quieter than I was expecting it to be. Saturday was obviously the big day, and
Saturdays usually are the when they first open, and Saturday kind of morning.
Yeah,
for what I've experienced, tends to be the busiest time. And Sundays are usually, they're hit and miss.
Yeah, they are. And it depends on weather and all kinds of things, you know, like if it's a beautiful sunny day, then people have got, you know, they might go, oh, well, I won't bother or whatever. But it's funny because, yeah, what I saw, I'm seeing more of the, I'm seeing more young people turning up too, which is really super, super interesting and really encouraging to see that. But mate, most of them are going to the head 5 section. They're not even bothering to go upstairs and look in the rooms because they've been up there and gone, oh, I can't afford that. And that's what's worrying me. It is more the Ferrari and more the, you know, the money jewelry type stuff. And look, there's got to be that. Because that's the draw card that gets people
love looking at the Ferrari at the car show, even though they're going to go buy the Toyota tomorrow, right?
Yeah, like you're never owning it, but you want to sniff the leather.
And there's no value to that. There's absolutely so okay, I'm gonna now contradict everything I just said. I'm gonna crumple it up and throw it out the window because I'm gonna be honest. So I just was at a hi-fi show in Raleigh. Happens once a year. It's actually done by a very prominent and respectable audiophile shop here in Raleigh. They put on an event every year, a local show. It's usually the brands that they cover in resell. Sometimes it's newer stuff as well that they don't really have in their brand. But for the most part, it's things that they cover. And when I look at the difference between last year and this year, last year they had a lot of stuff that was more higher end at the show. This year they did not. Most of the stuff, I would say easily 95% of the stuff on display was very, very affordable. We're talking about like $5,000 speakers. I know for some people that's like, oh, $5,000. You think that's affordable. I don't control your budget. I'm just saying from a hi-fi show, when you go see them and you're used to looking at $50, $60 to $100,000 speakers, $5,000 speakers are affordable speakers, right? Yep. $5,000 speakers, $1,000 deck, $200 or $2,500 amp, like very affordable rooms. A lot of rooms there were like $10,000, $15,000 rooms for everything. You could walk out the door with everything. Brilliant. I gotta tell you, mate, I was bored.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm contradicting myself now because I was bored. I was absolutely bored. I literally went there and I was like, there is nothing here that interests me. There's nothing here that like everything I have in my system is a massive step up from what I can. I didn't get teased. I didn't feel there was some rooms from Fidelity Imports that has some really cool stuff, that brands that I just wasn't exposed to. Actually brought some higher end stuff there, their speakers and stuff, but it still wasn't like super high end where I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a huge upgrade. And there was another brand that brought some really nice stuff there as well. But for the most part, like everything was just this affordable, very like entry level stuff. I would say more mid to low fi in the price spectrum. And that drove me crazy, man. I'm like, I had a hard time covering things because I personally wasn't excited about a lot of stuff, right? My most excitement were these outdoor speakers that I covered in my highlight video by Ocean something or another, a company in Florida that make these high fidelity outdoor speakers that are all submersion in water and all this stuff. And like, they're very resilient to any weather condition. And that was the most, like, I never really saw that brand. They're kind of a newer brand. They only been around for a few years. I never really saw them before. I never heard them before. I'm like, they sound great for an outdoor speaker. They sound amazing. Like that was the most exciting thing I had. And it's not what I expected. I expected to get caught up in some new turntable or some new speaker or some new amp. And that wasn't the experience I had. So we talk about, I'll wrap this up and I'll turn it over to you, Shane. But we talk about, we can't afford a Ferrari, but people bring the Ferraris and it teases us and it's not our buyer. But at this show, I'm like, I was actually searching all the rooms, like, where the hell's the Ferrari, man? Where's the car, right? Like, I want to see the sexy thing that, because I'm missing it. Every room is like, I can, I don't know. It was just, I was a little bit let down. The networking part of it and the people were great, but what I saw on display was there was a gap between that. You know what I mean?
I think yeah, I think there's got to be a balance. There's got to be a balance between the sort of stuff that's going to encourage the grassroots, the new audiophiles to come in and basically get enthusiastic and get on the treadmill, so to speak, get on the ladder to getting to where they want to get to, because that's really important. But I think for people in the mid area, they want to look at the next level up.
Yeah.
And the guys that are in the top area are going to be, they're also going to be wanting to see the Ferraris and the Lambos and the Porsches. And there's no problem with that. There's got to be a balance there. Or as you say, as you said earlier on, there's got to be a specific area or a specific show you go to. If if we're going to the show like you just went to, yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm going to be down having a coffee before too long and exiting stage left. But but in saying that as well, there will be plenty of people that are just getting into the hobby that will just go, look at all this stuff, and it's all stuff that I can afford.
Right?
Look, I think the industry's. Well, we focused on the top end of the industry and our problems, and my concerns, our concerns with that. But there is still the shit audios of the world, and there's still the Yamahas of the world, the Techniques of the world. There are still brands like that are making new product. The bar is lifting. So the next model in that area is better than the last model. The top end, I mean, look, the basic circuit diagram for a standard Class AB amplifier hasn't changed in 30 years. It just has not changed in 30 years. But why has the price gone 3, 4, 5, 6 times, 10 times the price?
That's right.
And we've talked about that, the component prices and labor costs and all of that will be a percentage of it. And I get that 100%, and that's justifiable. But in the smaller area, the lower area of the game, I think there's more innovation going on. There's a raising of the bar in that area that is really healthy.
Yeah.
We just need to encourage more of it. That's where the next generation is going to come in. And when you and I are, old and decrepit, and I already am, and we get to a point where we can't hear anything anymore, and we just want to shuffle off and listen to our stereo of what we can hear of it, and then worry about whether we need to be fitted up for Depends nappies or whatever the case may be. At that point in our life, it's the next generation we're going to hand it off to.
Yeah. And when's that handoff going to happen, though, mate? I mean, that's the big question, right? Because some of the giants are still the giants, and they're still the ones that everybody respects. You can see some of that at the hi-fi shows, man.
Yeah.
These folks that are listen, they earn their stripes. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
They earned their stripes. They've came in, they busted ass. They worked in the industry for years. They earned their stripes. But there comes a point where things like hearing and what you listen for and stuff, it starts. There's a different level. There was a guy who said to me, we were going around, and he was actually a distributor at the event. And he goes, you know why these hi-fi shows, this is from a distributor. I'm not going to mention any names. There's nobody I have affiliation with, by the way. So if you go on my channel, like, oh, who's he's talking about? Let me go find out. I have no affiliation whatsoever with who I'm about to say this about. But they said, all this stuff is more on a high end. Everything here is dialed up to the high frequency. And he goes, you know why? And I'm like, why? And he said, well, because most of the folks here are older and they can't hear. So we have to tune everything at a higher frequency so they can hear the damn music. Right. And then so they're altering the sound to try to favor some of the older generation. Listen, that's fine. But you're right, Shane. There's got to be a changing of the guard at one point, and we haven't seen it. Hey, listen, we have somebody dialing in. I have Mitch from Mitch's Vinyl Experience dialing in. I want to bring him in, Shane, because Mitch comes with a different perspective. I'm always humbled to be in a grace of you, because your hi-fi system blows mine out of the water. But I'm about half of your cost in my hi-fi system, which is very, eccentric for a lot of folks. Mitch is coming into the kind of gets now finally getting his feet wet into the hi-fi world. So he's a little bit newer. He's a little bit different perspective. And I love
Let me at him.
I love to get him to come in and give his perspective of hi-fi shows, because he's been participating in this year, and to see what he thinks, right? Because I think a lot of things we're talking about these rooms and being affordable rooms and not unattainable, and if that's good or bad for the industry, I think Mitch might have maybe a slightly different perspective, because I think any upgrade we're looking for might be really crazy in an amount that it costs. And while we bring in Mitch, I encourage, we have a lot of people watching this live stream right now between our two channels. So we are multicasting this broadcast. So we this is going out to multiple streams. And what I'm asking for y'all is this: if you have a comment about hi-fi in general, whether it's a show or what you're seeing at your local hi-fi dealer, or when you're shopping online for new stuff, if you have an opinion about, are the prices becoming too ridiculous for DACs, turntables, amps, preamps, speakers, cables, we'd love to hear it. We're going to bring your comments on the screen here, but let's go ahead and welcome Mitch. Mitch, welcome to the show. Thanks for dialing in, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, fantastic, man. I really appreciate you stepping in and joining us today. Thank you for that. I was just introducing everybody a little bit about you, and I know that you're getting your feet wet really in the hi-fi world and starting to upgrade components in your system. So when you go to these hi-fi shows, you're really coming at it as like a consumer view of like, what can I actually afford? Are these things I actually want to start budgeting for my system? And I know you've gone to a couple of hi-fi shows this year. I'm kind of get your take on all of this, because Shane and I have been saying, I don't know if you've been for the whole show or not, but Shane and I have been saying that there's been these sort of unattainable rooms. When you go to hi-fi shows, they tend to have these $1 million setups, $500,000 setups, over $2 million, $3 million setups, and it's just not practical. But then you go to a different show and everything is like 10 grand, 15 grand. And you're like, hey, where's the $1 million setup? Like, I'm missing it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm curious to get your thought as somebody who's building those building blocks of wanting to have a hi-fi system and going along the beginning parts of that journey. What your thoughts are on that?
Yeah. Well, for those who don't know, hi, I'm Mitch.
Please introduce yourself. I apologize. I know you, and I thought that everybody else did. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Mitch.
And
hi, Mitch. Nice to meet you, mate.
Oh, nice to meet you too. Shane, is it?
Yes.
Is very nice to meet you too, Shane. I actually just spent most of the day with Louis V, and I drove 2 hours back from his house, so I'm back at my house. So for people who don't know me, my name is Mitch. I have a small YouTube channel called Mitch's Vinyl Corner. I've been collecting records since about 2003. Then I went in the military afterwards, and I'm going to be retiring this year after 20 years of service in the Marine Corps. So now is a time, the last couple of years, as my career has been winding down, I've been getting more back into the hobby now that I'm not traveling, not going away as much, deploying and everything like that. So within the last year or so, and with the help of Louis, actually, I've really started to upgrade my my system. So for everyone watching who is not subscribed to my channel, my current setup is the MoFi Studio Deck turntable with the master tracker. You know, I call it like the working man's kind of turntable. You know, it is in that, you know, I'd say mid-range within the turntables right now. It was about 2000, and I actually recently just upgraded my my preamp to the Parasound JC3 Junior, which was a big step up from the MoFi Studio Phono I was using for a couple of years, and that just blew everything out of the water over the last couple of weeks that I've been having it. And I have the Leak Audio Stereo 130 and the Wharfdale Linton Heritage speakers. So I know this is not like Coen Brothers production, but I will show everyone my system. So that's my studio deck, and then down here, and then I got my speakers and everything. So within my man cave. So
nice listening room, Mitch. Really,
thank you. Yours was just a pleasure to be in earlier today, Louis. It was very, very good. But back to the original question about going to hi-fi shows. I went to one. My first one was in 2023, and I was in Los Angeles, California, and I was stationed there at the time. And I went to, I think it was the Home one. Hi, Eva. Sorry, my Great Dane's coming in to see me. Hi, pretty girl. You want to say hi to everybody?
Oh.
Say hi. Thank you, babe. Go out, Eva. She's outside. Love you. Thank you. Eva always has to make an appearance in my videos, so
nothing wrong with that.
So I went to this show and I saw like Kevin Gray there. I saw Joe Harley. I mean, this was a show to where I went into a room and everything in there cost more than my house.
Yeah.
And it was definitely an experience. For example, I went in the Macintosh room, that was just something to behold, the turntables in there, the preamps and everything they had. And the gentlemen in there were very nice. They're like, "Oh, you'd be interested in this." I'm like, "Brother, I can't. I would have to take out a loan to afford half of this stuff." And he was like, "Yeah, and so I kind of went in.
Yeah. What?
Yeah,
We got great rates.
Yeah. I kind of went in there like I can't even think about enjoying anything like this because it's just so way out of my price range. And I mean, if I had what we like to call in America sometimes fuck you money. If I had that kind of money where I can just go in and buy whatever I want, I mean it wouldn't be an issue. But to me, I went into some of these rooms like, to me at least, there was a $300,000 system, and I said, to my ears, mine sounds almost exactly the same.
Oh, that's the other thing. We didn't even talk about that. Some of these listening
Yeah, and
rooms
I didn't
sound
know because I
horrible.
just joined.
Horrible.
Yeah, like 10 minutes ago, I just got on, so I'm not sure what you guys have already discussed within the last hour.
We haven't got into that yet.
Yeah, you were driving. Yeah, we
Yeah,
didn't get into that at all.
so,
Yeah,
I mean,
but that's a very valid point, Mitch.
So at that show in particular, it was very nice seeing a bunch of this high-end stuff that I wouldn't even if I had more money than sense, I still probably wouldn't even buy. Because I'm like, what's the point? I think that it comes to a point where people will buy that kind of high-end stuff just to say, "Oh, I have it."
To have the brand. It's like buying the sneaker that has the cool logo on it when you could spend half the money or a third of the money and get a better sneaker.
And some of the stuff in there is like, would you guys even use half of this? Like, how often would you even listen to that? Thank you, Cyber. Thank you for saying that. So it would. So I didn't leave that show disappointed or anything, but I just kind of went, I can't ever imagine myself spending that kind of money, even if I had the means to do it. I mean, some of the stuff just didn't even sound that good.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I'm in here, I'm like, God, this stuff costs that much money? Like, no,
it just
sorry.
shouldn't. And that's the issue. It really shouldn't. And that's our point is that this is getting out of control. It is just it's a pissing contest to see who can ask for more. I mean, I'm going to name a name here, right? And I hope it doesn't blow up in my face. But Dart Zeal have got a cartridge that costs $1 million. Like, what the hell?
Like, I don't.
Like, what are we doing? Like this is ridiculous.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't understand it. And so that was that show. But when I went to Audio Advice Show and I went there with Louis, I thought that was a little bit more for the everyday hardworking American who, hey, you come home from work, you worked all day, you're trying to provide a means for your family, but this is like part of your hobby. This is what you want to enjoy. It's still not cheap and it's still expensive, but it's something to where I think that people over time can afford. And those kind of things hold their value. And it was very, very nice with Louis introducing me to a lot of other people that he's known throughout the industry, who in turn I've reached out to, and now they're willing to work with me.
The networking.
The networking piece at those kind of shows, I think, are better. Where me were to go to Macintosh, they'd be like, sorry, you need to be at least be monetized. They would probably have some like insane like requirement for my channel to have. But no, a lot of these companies, I'll name one, ISO Acoustics. John even gave me a personal phone call. He was like, no, let's do this, man. I think your channel I can help you grow. You know, he's of course he's like, you're a veteran. Thank you so much. He's like, I think you can do anything. So I want you to enjoy this stuff. And I think it's more at that show, people were more than willing to be like, yeah, hey man, you want to review something, we'll just send it to you. And if you like it, great.
There was a
We'll
lot
work
of
with you.
friendly people there.
Yeah.
For sure,
And
Mitch. There was a lot of friendly people.
yeah, and if you don't like it, be honest with us. And if you don't like something, yeah, send it back. And I think that's more like, yeah, and it's hard for me to grasp that concept sometimes where it's like I'm trying to be polite, always trying to be a nice guy because, you know, part of that's my service too. But sometimes I have to be honest. Hey, man, love your company, but this product that you gave me, I just was not a fan. Sorry. I'm not going to say this is a fucking piece of shit or anything, but it's like it didn't meet my expectations. Maybe the next product will meet it. You know?
I think in this, there's so much system synergy that needs to be taken into account, and that we're not gonna like everything that we get in our room because it just doesn't work with our system.
Yeah.
Cables are like that. Components are like that. Everything you do along that chain affects the next thing along in that chain. And if and sometimes it doesn't click. It just doesn't work. And that doesn't mean the product's bad. It doesn't mean the product's bad. It just means it didn't work in your system. So it's about how you get that across to your audience in relation to, you see the merit in it. You can see where it would maybe work and probably would work in a system that's more pitched this way or that way. But at the end of the day, it just didn't work in my system. And that's fine. But unfortunately, there's just too much dancing that's got to be done in this industry these days, where all you do when you see a review is it's positive. Well, I mean,
well, there's a reason for that, Shane, because you and I both have been blackballed from companies because we were honest in our review and we gave an honest opinion, which wasn't necessarily a favorable opinion about the product or brand. And all of a sudden they're like, we're not sending you anything anymore. We're done. We're done our relationship because you didn't lie and say that our product was good. We're not sending you anything anymore. And that's crap for YouTubers, right? Because we are trying to give unbiased, unfiltered, raw opinions. And that's where, listen, I'm just going to be honest, guys, for everybody watching here. Let me just tell you, Shane and I have been in YouTube game for a little while. Mitch has also been in the game for a little while. Here's the thing. If you go online and you see a whole bunch of YouTubers talking about a certain product and brand and all of them are great reviews, find the one that doesn't say it's a great review, because that's probably honestly an honest review. I'm not saying the product needs to be bad, but there's so many folks out there that flood with positive reviews because you know why? Because they want another product sent to them for free to review. And it's BS. It's absolute BS. Be real and authentic. Be real and authentic. I have sent products back. I'm like, listen, I can review it or I can send it back to you, but I don't like it at all. It doesn't work for me. But listen, I know my opinion's different from Mitch's opinion, from Shane's opinion, from John's opinion that's dialing in, from Charles, from Dark Jeff, from Dave that's dialed in, all these people that are commenting. My opinion, what I hear and what I like is different than you guys. So if I don't like it, I could put a review and say, I hate it, right? Or I could just say, I'll send it back and let somebody else take their opinion about it. Or I can give you my honest, like, I don't know, like there's got to be a compromise sometimes. And I hate to say that I only filter. Listen, I provide unbiased. I always give pros and cons no matter what. I let you decide if it works for you. And every recommendation I have is test it. See if it works for you. I don't say go buy. I say I put it on my short list, something I would recommend, something I think you should consider, something you should evaluate. I don't say right now stop and go buy it. Oh, and go buy it on my website, right? I don't do that.
Anybody that says that, right? Anybody that says that, run.
It's
run
biased.
from the hills.
You want to like what you sell. Because
there are channels out there that say my speaker, my DAC, my this, my that. It's this brand is the best. Well, why?
And
because they sell it.
There's nothing else goes better than what they sell. And like this bullshit, man. This world rivalry. Yes, we are all biased to a certain degree. I absolutely 100% agree with you there. But when you are in a I don't want to say authority. Is that too strong if I say YouTubers are authority and giving feedback and honest opinions? If you're respected as somebody who's supposed to be a source of truth and giving your view, and you sell the product that you're reviewing, and you make commission and money off of selling that product, maybe you shouldn't be freaking reviewing the damn thing. Right? That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. You don't
right?
review your brands. You just don't. You don't
Yeah.
talk about, you know, and this is the problem. I don't take this, and I think Louis and I think we're all the same. I don't take commission for anything. I don't sell anything on my channel. I make it very, very clear if I approach a company because there's something I want to try from them because I think it'll work for my system and I want to talk about it because I don't see a lot of other people talking about it. I make it very, very clear. If you send me this product and I don't like it, I won't review it. I will send it back, or I will review it. But what I promise you I will do is give you the truth about the brand. And now, if you don't want that, if you're worried about that, if you think that that's going to damage your brand, then please don't send it to me because I would rather not have it.
Yeah. Well, a follow-up comment, right? Like the problem is YouTubers make a living YouTube, and that's
Not me.
That's absolutely right for a lot of folks, except for folks that are here on this channel today, because we haven't signed our soul away to some company to go sell things. To your point, Shane, I've recommended and sold a lot of product because I recommended it because I had a positive review. I know this because the company contacts me and says they've seen an increase in sales, just like I'm sure they do with you. But the thing is, I get zero of that, nothing. And a lot of times I have to send a damn product back. So I don't even get to keep what I review. Most of the things that you see in my room, 90+% of what's in here has not been gifted. I paid for it. I paid for it. And a lot of it has been, I reviewed it, I liked it, and I bought it. Right? I reviewed it, liked it, bought it. It's something I felt when I gave my review and said, I can hear this in my system. To me, this is the best sound in XYZ. I said, hey, I'm going to outlay cash for it. I'm going to buy it. Now, will I be honest to say sometimes get offered industry price for buying it? Yes, I do. Sometimes get offered an industry price for buying it. Right. So I get it a little bit at a discount than what you could buy from an MSRP. Sometimes it's like 30%, just in case anybody's asking. Usually it's about 30%, maybe sometimes more if it's a B stock or a demo unit. But for a new product, it's about 30% off. If you want to know what YouTubers get or discounts or promos they get or whatever, about 30%, right? Maybe a little bit more if it's not. But that's it. But you're still outlaying your cash for the damn product. Otherwise, you got to send it back.
Yeah, and I think that that's the same, not even just for equipment, but for vinyl record reviews too. Like you guys,
that's a whole different episode, man.
that is
load on that one. I'm very
like I will bring up the one that I did, right? I reviewed, and Louis known this. I did the Rhino Hi-Fi shootout with the Black Sabbath debut, and I had an original Vertigo. Well, a 1971 UK fourth pressing. So same metal plates. I know a lot of people, including, guys like Mike from the In Groove and everyone, like, really gave praise to the Rhino Hi-Fi. And I really, really, trust I bought a lot of stuff off their recommendations. But my system, my ears, I said, I prefer the Vertigo. But I always say, hey, if you don't have this album and you don't want to go looking for it and spending money, the Rhino Hi-Fi is 100% worth it. And I always say that in all of my shootouts. And I did the same for the Paranoid. I said, hey, I preferred actually the Rhino Hi-Fi to my UK one. I'm like, pick this one up. I highly recommend it. But if you're a purist in some point, like me, or you want all the Black Sabbath stuff, go get a UK. I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money, but I always make sure to say, if I like maybe the more expensive one, or if I like the one that's maybe not the mainstream pick, I'll say, hey, if you want this one, go get it. If you don't, I have this other option too. But it's all about yours. And I always give my reviews as my ears, my system, my setup, how I hear it. You might hear it completely different. And the only way to find out is to do it yourself.
That's true.
I can just give you a suggestion.
Well, the only answer, the thing that I'd be scratching my head about there is what was his name again? Mike. Is it from In Groove? What's he selling?
Yeah, the record. That's what he's selling, right? I mean, listen, I've been a follower of Mike for a long time. He helped release the whole MoFi Gate scandal, right? Like he's very respected. I really do appreciate his opinion.
Yep.
I will also, I go with everything with a little bit of an asterisk with him, because I've seen in videos where he's like, this pressing, I don't recommend it. Why would you spend your money? And then all of a sudden he's allowed to sell in the store, and it's like, oh, this is the best pressing ever. Or here's a reissue that you could buy from my website. It's better than the OG copy that you can buy. Like, listen, I'm not saying he comes into it with bias or favorite. I don't know. But I find it wild sometimes that the records he sells is typically the ones that he recommends. Just saying. And he's not alone on that. But listen, he has a business. His channel is to promote his record store. People forget that. Just like Dylan at Noble Records, he talks about a lot of cool records. He does. He's got a broad taste. Holy shit. Half of the things that he talks about, I'm like, how do you even listen to this music? Because I've streamed it, or I've got the record after your recommendation. I'm like, this is just way psychedelic. Like I have to be messed up in every level of drug just to be able to stand the music. But a lot of stuff that he promotes or tries to get you really influenced on are things that he sells in his store, because these guys have channels for their stores, just like you got folks that have channels to push their products that they sell. These guys are sellers, and they're using the venue of YouTube. It's just like real estate. You got real estate agents doing, welcome to Orlando, welcome to Las Vegas, welcome to San Diego, and they tell you all the fun things and restaurants and beer. Why do they put those videos out? Because they want to sell their service. It's a relocation service for you to use them as their real estate agent, right?
And there's no problem with this, right? There's
no problem.
We're not saying there's a problem with this. I'm really not. But all I'm saying to our audience is just keep that in mind, so that it's something for you to consider. I would suggest, and again, it's a suggestion, listen to channels that haven't got any skin in the game. They're actually doing it to give their opinion. Whether it's valid or not is up to you to decide.
Yeah.
But know that channel isn't getting a kickback, isn't being narrated, isn't being told what to say. You can put a little bit of credence to that kind of a channel, as opposed to another channel that may well be, and I'm not naming names, but another channel that may have a product line, a series of things that they are selling, because they are relying on those sales for their income. I don't need to rely on YouTube for an income. I will never, ever be dependent on YouTube for my income for this channel. This channel is done because I love hi-fi and I love helping people. End of story.
Yeah,
it's a hobby, and I think, to your point, Shane, bringing in, going to those channels that don't have any skin in the game, like Melinda Murphy. She's a perfect example. 100%. She does have no skin in the game, and she's sometimes brutally honest. She's like, I have this in my collection and I think it sucks. You probably shouldn't buy it. Scott from the Pressing Matters down in Miami, he's very much more unbiased too. There are channels out there.
Mike's Vinyl Experience. I'm going to call it out. I love Mike. Mike Vinyl Experience, man. He's got like 2,000
Mike's Vinyl Experience.
He does an amazing job. Amazing job covering
Safe and Sound Texas too.
Safe and
He's
Sound,
really good.
Yep.
He's
Dave,
awesome. And again, like we said, I love Mike Esposito from the In-Groove. He was the first channel I discovered.
Yeah, he's one of the greats. I'm going to be honest. He's one of the greats.
I watch him. I watch him too.
I watch him all the time. But again,
I'm not running him into the ground. I'm just saying.
I'm not either. I 100%.
There's biasm because he sells the record. He's going to want you to buy the record he has in his store.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. He's promoting his product. That's it.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing. And that's like a lot of people too, where you watch Michael Fremer too. And Michael Fremer's been in this game for a very long time. You either like him or you don't.
He's a polarizing character.
He's a very polarizing character, but a lot of the stuff he says, you can't deny. Now, I'm not saying his. Okay, we're not going to get into that. Actually, there's other things that people say, but I respect Michael Fremer from what he's done for the industry, from what he's done. like I said, I met Kevin Gray in person, and him and I hit it off really well when I told him I was a big fan. And, you know, and I'm sure he's one of those guys that's like, yeah, there's people out there that'll love a record I do, and then the next one I come out with, they don't like it. He's like, I don't take it personally. I don't take it anything. He's like, and I think somebody like that who's a mastering engineer or any mastering engineers knows that they're going to have fans and detractors and vice versa. Sometimes they'll make things that are big hits with everybody, and then maybe those same people, the next one, hey man, I don't think you hit the mark this time, but we're looking forward to the next one. So
yeah,
I think that's what we all have to go into. Like sometimes records just don't come out the way we wanted to, but it wasn't our job. We weren't in the mastering studio when that was done. That record was made by how either Kevin Gray, Bernie, Matt Luthans, or any of those guys thought that it should sound to the general public, and it was up to them. So
no,
yeah,
absolutely. So we'll get off the vinyl thing for a moment. I want to get back to the hi-fi, but you mentioned an important part, because not to call out Mike, but one of the albums that he has his initials in the Dead Wax, he said is the best pressing he ever heard of that album. Your freaking initials are in the Dead Wax, dude. Like, I guess it is the best sounding of that record that you ever heard, right? I don't know. I'm just...
You signed it.
Right. You signed it. Your name's on it, right? Like, if you say this is the worst sounding record I ever heard, there's a problem.
You're not going to sign it.
So we've been talking today, guys. We've been going on for almost 2 hours at this point, talking about the state of hi-fi. We've been focusing around shows. We've been talking about, do shows bring too much expensive gear that's just unattainable for the average person to be able to afford? John brings up a good point that $3 million systems in the average room is just, it's not practical, right? And I agree with you, John. It is just not practical. But that's what you're seeing. You're either seeing the extreme of these super unattainable, very expensive rooms that nobody really in their right mind will ever be able to afford unless you're a millionaire or billionaire. And then, or you see these really, really, really budget rooms where, like, yeah, everything in here is $5,500 for everything. And there doesn't seem to be this. First off, I feel like there's a gap between both of those spectrums, right? There's not enough, what I would say, mid-fi systems, if I can use that term liberally here. But the other thing is I would really love hi-fi shows to give you some sort of taste on what's the price of the room. Hey, this is a $300,000 room. This is a $50,000 room. This is a $20,000 room. A lot of these guys have their price sheet. Tape it to the door, man. Let me know what I'm walking into so I can find something. Oh, hey, maybe I have a budget. Maybe I have a $20K budget for speakers, which is a terrible amount of money for a lot of folks. I want to go find the rooms that have $20,000 speakers so I can figure out what I want to afford. Help me shop. Help me be a consumer.
Here's a marketing ploy, right? Put that. This is our next room. This is a wide room as far as the cost goes. Because I guarantee you there'll be the people at the top end of the game that'll go there and okay, better go in and have a look at this. And then what you're doing is you are then targeting the audience you want in that room to come into that room. If it's sitting on the door, then you can walk down the corridor and go, yeah, that's a room I want to go into. Yeah, I want to go into that room. Right. I don't want to go into that room. I'm past that. I'm in a different area. We're all at different levels, and there's nothing wrong with that. But use it as a marketing ploy, even as if here it is. If you come into this room, you're going to hear gear that costs this kind of money. I think you could use it to your advantage. I agree with you on the mid-fi stuff, mate. Definitely. A little plug for me now is that I'm going to try and get some more mid-fi components into my room rather than, $7,000 Ethernet switches.
Yeah.
And actually talk a little bit about some mid-fi stuff. We're working with some brands that hopefully can get some of their gear into my room and talk about mid-fi stuff, because that's where the bulk of the audience that we want to get to is. I'll never move away from the ultra high-end stuff that I love. But in saying that, I think if you want, and let's be honest, we're all the same here, the three of us, we want our channels to grow so that we can be seen and listened to by more and more people. And giving our opinion, and with that opinion and with that advice comes responsibility. And that's not lost on me either. And I don't think it is on you two guys either. There is a responsibility to get this right. If we don't get it right, then we're just part of the subterfuge that is the rest of YouTube out there.
Yeah.
Where you just don't know which channel to click on, because everything's going to be brilliant, and you'll know more the wiser about whether that's something you should go and have a listen to or not. So with that comes responsibility. I think that's where I hope we can make a bit of a difference, in our own little small way, at being able to say to people, if you come to our channels, we're going to tell you exactly what we think, whether we think it's something maybe you should go and have a listen to, whether it's something you should spend a bit of time looking at, or whether it just isn't. And that knowing that trust is there and that it will never be compromised. I certainly can speak for me. I know I can speak for you guys as well. I mean, if Louis a mate of Mitch, then Mitch has got to be a good guy, because Louis is a good guy as far as I'm concerned. So I am confident of that and can say it. But I can certainly speak because I've had a really lovely relationship now with Louis for quite a while, and we're going to be doing some really, really big things coming up soon too. Just not going to break anything here.
That, by the way,
we've got more coming for everybody very, very soon.
Yeah, and I liked how you really kind of tied it back to responsibility.
Yep.
I feel like when I reviewed the Parasound when I got it, I felt that there was a responsibility on my part to be like, hey, I'm not shitting on my old preamp. How I even showed it. I said, I think this is great if you're just starting.
Yep.
Focus on the important things first. And I'm like, I stepped up my game because, one, I saved for it, I listened for it, I had other advice from other experts that I trust, so I decided to upgrade. And I actually just sold that on eBay to hopefully somebody that is going to enjoy it as much as I did. So that's what I did. So, and I felt like there was a responsibility to at least say, hey, the past one I was with for a couple years was 100% great, and I would recommend it for anybody at that level. However, if you want to step up, like I did, I felt like this was the right way. And if you're not a Parasound person, maybe there's other things within that price range and with the same system, but it's all about, like you said, system meshing.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to research. And I had Lenny Florentine and from All About Audio, the guys up in Maryland. I called them personally, and because I saw the review on it, I'm like, hey, this is the system I have. These are the components. Do you think it's going to mesh well? They're like, bro, this is how we actually tested it with the system that you had. So I'm like, all right. So I trusted their word, and they said, if you don't like it, 60 days, send it back. And they had a responsibility to tell me the truth too, and I felt like they did, and it's worked wonders too. And I think that's something that
really important,
we all have to bring to the table too, is when we review these things, we also say, hey, if you're just starting out, maybe not focus so much maybe on this component, because like Louis told me, he's like, hey, now I think you got your system dialed in, isolation is the next step for you. So that's the next step.
Money on another piece. Get the room right. Get your components right.
Get the room right.
Speakers isolated. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think So I think what I would probably start doing for my channel at least is saying, I think my next step would maybe be, all right, hey, I have my system dialed in. Now I'm going to focus on little things here and there. I'm going to take you guys along the way too, like not even system component, but just video components. Like I need blackout curtains because the lighting's so bad in my fucking room. How to make better videos so I get more views, or hey, maybe move this around and this around, or do your research and don't always listen to the most viewed person on YouTube or like the most liked article. Like do your own research. And again, it goes back, trust your ears.
Yeah.
These are the only things that won't.
They're the only thing that matters. These are the only things that I guarantee you will not lie to you.
That's right. Yep. So buy from somebody that allows you to return, like Mitch did, and understand that this industry, like many, are bought and paid for. Even those reviews you read in your favorite magazine or website are typically bought.
Magazines.
They're paid reviews. If you didn't know that, welcome to the show, because a lot of those are paid reviews. And a lot of YouTubers, like we just mentioned, get cut off if you leave a bad review about a product. and Shane and I have been victims of that in the past, where you just completely get cut off from a company because you were too honest on your review about what it is. We have some interesting,
Let me just break in there by saying a couple little things about what you've just said then, Louis. Let's talk about the magazine media for a minute. So if you are you've got a new product and you want to have the magazine review that product.
Yeah.
Here's the dead honest truth here, because I know this for a fact. You've got to buy advertisement in that magazine for a 12-month run.
Yep.
So at whatever that costs every time that magazine comes out. And then if you pay the whatever that cost is, and I don't know about cost, it depends on the publication and what have you. If you pay that money, then you're almost essentially, it's an unwritten rule, going to get a positive review. So everything. When have you ever read a product review in a magazine that was negative? I bet you never have.
There's keywords in there sometimes, though. There's keywords to listen for.
Absolutely.
They use some hidden language in there to demonstrate that a product didn't perform to their expectations, but you got to be really savvy on picking it up because the overall tone is positive.
Yep. Now, another thing I just wanted to touch on here, it's a bit of a personal thing, but it was asked and I saw it, so I'll answer it. Someone's asking about playback designs, whether I've heard anything I've heard anything that beats the playback designs. Let me tell you this. It is still my reference. It is still the best DAC that I have ever heard, and I've heard over 300 DACs now in my time, and it is the best DAC that I've ever heard. The Series 1 version of Andreas's MPD8 is the best version of that DAC, and that's going to wind a few people up because you can't buy the Series 1.
Everybody says that Mark II is better because that's what they can sell.
That's what they can sell. But I can tell you, and even some of those people who sell the Mark II DAC know the Mark I's better. So there's controversy for you, and certainly I've had the Mark I and the Mark II in my room side by side. The Mark I sounds more analog sounding. It's got more fleshed out mid range. It sounds more like analog than the Mark II does. The Mark II is just not. It's too detailed. It starts. When I talk about two, we are talking about the tiniest little margins here. That it is still a phenomenally good DAC, right? What Andreas is doing at Playback Designs is simply the forefront of DAC technology. But if you asked me to pick between the two, if I thought the Mark II was better, I'd own it. I don't own it because the Mark I's better.
And Shane, I mean, and I respect that. That's your opinion, right? Some folks might like the extra detail on the Mark II.
Yeah, true.
In certain cases, that extra detail becomes fatiguing to me, like personally.
Yep.
The over detail is too fatiguing. I can't listen to music very long. This is super over detail. I need a little bit of smooth. I need a little bit of emotion. I need a little bit of organic flow. That's why we talked about this, you and I, on our Wednesday calls. Like the reason people love tubes is the distortion, which goes great against high fidelity, right? You're distorting the music, but the people love tubes because of distortion, because it adds more soothing tones and textures to the music than if you were hyper detailed, which can become really fatiguing really fast.
Well, it becomes dry and analytical, and we equate that to digital.
That's right.
And everything, music was, I'm quoting Guido here. I hope he's watching, Guido. But music was born analog, and it was born analog. So everything starts off with a human being playing an instrument or singing out of their mouth. So that's where it starts. And from a sound engineer point of view, that's our job, is to capture that as faithfully as we can and get it in a reproductive form as faithfully as we can. And the better engineers get that as close. It is still never the same. We are not at that point. We haven't been at that point. Who knows when, if we ever do get to that point. Capture is always flawed. Microphones distort. They all do. There's no such thing as a distortion-free microphone, because we rely on some of that second, third order harmonic distortion because we love it. There's distortion that we hate, of course. Clipping is terrible and all the rest of it. That's a whole nother episode. But that beautiful, ethereal, fleshed out, meaty, chesty mid-range that we get from those harmonic distortions that we capture, and we keep them in the recording because that's what sounds humanly real to us. That's the thing that is super important about feeling the humanity of the capture. And then the rest of it is all about how far up the ladder we can get without being ripped off, which is the whole idea of today's thing.
That's right. That's
to be able to feel like we're like when we close our eyes and we sit in the room, that the artists feel like they're there in front of us. That's what we want. That's what audiophiles strive for.
Yeah, very well said, Shane. And I think we're coming to a concluding of our show. We've been on air live for 2 hours. I've ran out of both beverages, so I have nothing else to drink. My voice is going to be distorted soon. It's going to be like listening to a tube app. Maybe you'll like it more. We do have comments. So we've been talking about today about, is hi-fi becoming too unattainable for most folks? Has the price creep become too unreal? John brings up a good point about 100K setups. How many of those are they actually selling at these hi-fi shows? I mean, honest with you, probably not a lot, right? I mean, just probably not a lot. I don't know. Maybe people do come with big paychecks, checks to write for these the equipment, but I don't think they're selling many of them, man. No. I really do. I think the goal for some of these guys is to just get you hooked on a brand so you go home and research it, and maybe you go buy their entry product, right? I mean, just being honest. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? I run Vitus Amp here. It's their entry product. I think it sounds great. Will I ever go to a level 2 or their signature series? I don't know. But their entry product is reference series grade equipment. If I step up, I have to spend double the amount, if not triple the amount of money just to get to the next level. So yeah, I saw the unattainable stuff. They had it at Exfona. They had their top of the line stuff. I mean, it was nice, sexy to see. I took a picture of it. You know, I'm like, I came home. I'm like, see what your big brother looks like. One day you'll grow up to be that. You know, you never know, right? But some of these prices are crazy. Before we wrap, and because we do need to wrap, I'm going to call it out. Shane, you and I are very similar on our taste of equipment, music, what we look for out of our audio gear. But I'm curious on you, mate. What are some brands today? I'm going to put you on the spot. We didn't talk about this earlier, but what are some brands today that you feel provide a very good value for the money? What would you, 2 or 3? You don't have to go through a whole setup, but what are some brands you think that provide good value to the money today?
I think there's some wonderful. I'm going to call out Margules because everything that I've read about that brand is at that level of fantastic. This is what, so we're talking about, I guess, bang for your buck stuff where you feel like you've really got good value, stuff you can sit on as a brand for a couple of years or 3 or 4 years before you're even starting to think about whether you want to go up. Look, that some of the stuff that Yamaha are doing, some of the stuff that Technics are doing now, some of the stuff that Shit Audio is doing now, that some of those brands are really very, very, very well priced in the market and extremely good bang for your buck. You know, there's a lot out there that's really, really in that lower. Now, I know we had a bit of a crack at the industry today, and we got a few people hot under the collar, and that's lovely, or got them interested, and that's what we wanted to do here today with this. But there is a lot going on at that entry level that's getting, and my point to that is it's getting better and better and better, and it's not 80% dearer the next model. I mean, some other brands that we could talk about here is that I think is really good. You've got you did put me on the spot.
I told you,
but that's okay. That's live TV. Some like I think I mentioned Shit Audio, didn't I? I mentioned like what's that brand? I can't think of it off the top of my head. It's letters. They do their products are. Oh, you really put me on the spot. I've had a mental block. Have you got anything here? I'm going to put you back on the spot. I've mentioned 3 or 4.
I think it depends what you're looking for, right? So like turntables, so as somebody who doesn't have one in my setup, but I've recommend Project to a lot of folks.
Yeah,
I think they
Project's
have a
very good.
great line that allows you to grow. You can get in with their carbon debut that's fairly inexpensive for a line, and you can go all the way up to a $20,000 turntable with them with their signature series. So they give you a lot of growth. They have a lot of components to support that ecosystem. I think that's a really good value for the money. I run Sutherland phono preamps. I think they provide a great value for the dollar as well. I think they punch above their weight. That's why I own them in my system. I've evaluated tons of phono pre. I think the Paris sound that Mitch picked up, I actually recommend. Mitch reached out to me and said, what phono preamp? I said, I gave him 2 options. One of them was the Paris sound JC3 Plus. The other one was, or one of them was the JC3 Junior. The other one was the JC3 Plus. I'm like, depending on your value, here's 2 that I recommend for the type of system you have. I think the Paris sound is an amazing preamp, phono preamp for the value, depending on what you're looking to get. I think that there's some really good brands out there coming out with some really cool stuff that is, I think it's there's been this hi-fi foot in the ground with very super expensive components. And I feel like some brands, like the ones we're mentioning, are starting to learn what those hi-fi brands are doing. And they're starting to incorporate some of those features and design elements into their equipment, but they're doing it at a little bit more affordable price. Now, can they
trickle down economics? It's like what's up there will eventually start moving down into the lower, and that's happening all the time, and that's really healthy for the industry.
It's happening. I feel like a lot in hi-fi with the resurgence and people wanting 2-channel systems and home theater systems. There's a big uptick in home theater systems lately too, and I think what we're seeing now is the gap. See, my voice is run out because I'm not in a drink. How do you like my tube voice? Is my tube voice, does it feel warm?
All the second and third order harmonics are beautiful, man.
So I think what's happening is that those components now, the gap between these super ultra high end and something that's affordable, the gap is big still, because the premium brands are still the premium brand. If I'm going to sell Ferrari, Lamborghini, it's going to be a Ferrari, Lamborghini price. But these other companies are starting to come in now, and they're like 90%. The audio, like you're talking about very small details. You reviewed that all-in-one integrated system. The usage is damn near close. These other individual components that you had in your rack, and if you were doing everything all over again, you would have a hard consideration of buying that one single component that does so many things so well. And you're talking about one integrated component versus all these dedicated devices that you have to pay for each one of those. And you have to pay for power, and you have to pay for cables to connect all that stuff together, right? And you're adding more elements, you're adding more hops,
more possibilities for things to go wrong.
Right. And you're going from your source to this place to this place to this place versus having everything integrated. Some of these integrated components. Okay, here's my answer, and then maybe we'll kick it back over to Mitch and get his thoughts. But here's my thought on this. I think people really need to have a serious look at integrated devices. I would have not said that years ago. I think some of the integrated stuff was not so good. It's like the all-in-one printer, right? It does the fax, it does the scanner, it does the printer, but it does none of them well. That's how I felt like a lot of these integrated components were, right? They got you okay. They got you at least started, but they didn't really do anything terribly well. I can't say that anymore. There's some integrated components that are just blowing my mind on how well they do all the stuff that you do in a very concise and compact box. And I think that's a value grab that we need to reconsider when we're looking at buying stuff, especially if you're new to the hobby and you're looking at buying multiple components to put together a stereo system. Integrated might be the way to go for the best value for your dollar.
What do you think, Mitch?
No, you guys bring up a great point. And I have a lot of people always asking me, because I consider my system to be, in my eyes, it is hi-fi. And, it's mid-fi, right? I think it's very well built. And when people always ask me, hey, Mitch, I'm really want to get into vinyl, what do you think I should first start out with? I'm like, well, first start out with the turntable, right? And I always tell people, don't go with Crossley. Don't buy a fucking Crossley. Just don't do it. I'm like, spend the time, spend a couple $100. The brand that I recommend most my friends to was Fluence.
Fluence also does great.
Fluence is great because I owned a Fluence. I owned an RT85 with the Audiophile Blue. I thought it was great. I tell my friends, like, if you want something that's like maybe a couple $100, start off with the Fluence, get yourself even some nice powered speakers. They don't have to be passive. Like most of them don't even want to get to the level that even I'm at, right? They just want to have it in the corner with friends over, get some powered speakers. Yeah, get a amplifier if you want, or get an all-in-one and just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. So that's a brand that I recommend a lot of people to. But I've had some ask me, well, I want to get a separate preamp. I've done some research. I'm like, okay, so maybe you've researched a little bit. Okay, now I'd say get like an i5 Zen phono preamp for like maybe $200. I think that would be good. Get some nice floor standing speakers, or get some maybe Klipsch speakers. Maybe they're entry level, or Cornwall, some entry level ones that they have. JBL even. I think they're not bad, right? I think they're pretty good. And just a nice even amplifier, couple $100 amplifier. Start there and just enjoy the music first.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The best advice is enjoy the music. That's
just enjoy it, man.
And
believe me, probably... I've gone down a rabbit hole with some of my components to where it's just stressed me out, and it's like I actually need a break, and I won't listen to my system. I didn't listen to my system for like a couple weeks because I'm like, damn it, I went down that rabbit hole. I listened to people I shouldn't have, and I should have just trusted my ears. And we all make mistakes in this.
Everybody
we make
does.
tons of them.
Yeah.
But now it's, I think, especially with us three guys, are like, you know what? I think there's a problem in the industry with all this super hi-fi, unobtainium stuff, to where we should kind of bring it back down to ground truth and be like, you can still enjoy pure analog sound without spending tens of thousands of dollars. You just have to look in the right place and not overthink it. As much as you try not to overthink it, I'm going to overthink it, unfortunately. But
yeah,
I've been able to round myself out in the last few years, especially help from like you, Louie. Now, obviously, you, Shane, you and I have made a connection tonight. I think it's really good. I look forward to more of these, but it's more like, guys, it's really not that hard.
Well, at the end of the day, it's about, we've got to love music. We've got to,
we're going to love it.
You don't do this unless you love music.
Look, and I think that a perfect place to wrap this up is to simply say that there is good health in the lower end of the market.
Yeah.
It should be encouraged and it should be supported, because that's where we're going to get the next generation. And it comes right full circle back around to where we started this whole conversation over 2 hours ago. And if there's been people on here for 2 hours, I love you. Thank you.
No kidding.
But at the end of the day, that is the part of the area of the industry that needs the nurturing and the encouragement
100%.
now.
Yes.
And it's all about the music. It's all about the love of the music. The way the goosebumps come up on your arms when something is played to you, that you played something that reminded you of a time and a place in your life that was that made you cry, that made you laugh, that made you angry, that made you happy. That's what being a true audiophile is. It's not about the freaking gear. It's got nothing to do with the gear, because you can have a $500 sound system and still get all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's not that. It is about the love of the music. And I think it's time to drop the mic.
Shane, well said, man. I'm gonna end in edifying what you said, but I'm also gonna circle back here, because Mitch, I laugh when you mention Klipsch, because I use Klipsch for my first like 2 or 3 home theater setups, and they did me well when I had them. They were a fantastic bargain price. But it did remind me of one speaker brand that I do think deserves to be on the sort of value to dollars, and that's Dolly. I think Dolly makes some wonderful speakers for their price, and they don't get enough. They just don't get enough awareness. There's nobody reviewing them. There's nobody talking about them. But if you go to Hi-Fi Show, I highly recommend go check out Dolly. I think you're going to be really blown away. Yeah, I have them in my home theater. I don't have them in my listening, but I have Dolly's in my home theater system, and they sound amazing for a home theater setup. I mean, they really, really do. They're wonderful speakers.
Good point, Louis.
I want to just edify what you said, Shane, on a closing note. We were here today talking about hi-fi, and we were talking about the cost of hi-fi, and is some of these components that are $500,000, $250,000, $1 million for speakers or a cartridge like you brought up, Shane. Is this really stupid now? Are we getting to a point of unattainable for anybody and everybody? And who are these companies making this stuff for, and who's actually going to buy it? I think there's one thing to be said here. You mentioned about audiophile, Shane, and enjoying the music, coming off of Mitch's comment around it. One of the things that I hate is when people say, well, it's just enjoy the music. Why are you spending all that money on components? Why are you doing all this stuff? Why are you tweaking? We don't do this unless we appreciate the music. Everything I do in my listening room is to try to authentically recreate how that session was recorded, whether it was in a studio or a live recording. That's why I do it, because I love the music so much. I want to feel present in it. I don't do this because I want to listen to my equipment. I hate when people say, oh, audiophile, just listen to your equipment. Who the hell listens to you're right. I just blast my speakers to just try to listen to the hum, and I figured there's a ground loop, and now I got to figure the hum. That's what I'm listening. Come on. We listen to the music, right? We listen to, that's why we do this. And it doesn't matter what stage you're in. An audiophile can spend $500 on a system or $500,000 on a system. An audiophile is a lover of music. By definition, is somebody who loves music. And in all, that's it. It doesn't matter anything else. So just remember that if you love music, you're technically an audiophile. It doesn't matter what setup you have. It doesn't matter. You can be in your car, listen to music, and you love it. You're an audiophile, right? So let's just do that. Right.
This is not and should not be an elitist game. It really shouldn't be. And that's what's killing the industry too, where it's just this elitist attitude that we're all got our noses in the air, and that's rubbish. Carmine makes a beautiful statement here. G'day, Carmine. He says music is the software that drives the hardware. Never forget that the great software, well produced, well made, that's what makes music, and that makes the gear sound good. It's the music. We can't put the cart before the horse here. At the end of the day, it's all about the music first. The gear follows. And you make a great point, Louis. We can start at $500, even less, and then go to wherever we want to go to. But getting started is what it's all about. And I hope this conversation today made some people may look at this and go, yeah, those guys are enthusiastic. I'm passionate like they are about music. Maybe I should go to a hi-fi show and have a look, or maybe I should start looking online and seeing what I can buy. Now I can actually have a setup in my living room or something. And then you're there. Then you can start buying music. Then you can start doing whatever you want to do, whether it's streaming, buying physical media, whatever. You're there. You're suddenly an audiophile, folks.
And that's it. That's it. And we flirted around this a lot on this show, but it's all about relationships. And I highly encourage anybody right now, if your relationship of buying audio equipment or devices, components for your system has been purely on an online transaction where you don't have anybody that you can pick up the phone and call and talk to, you need to go develop a relationship with somebody that is in a hi-fi shop. There's two things that's going to happen when you do that. One, hopefully you have a friend for life. The second thing is that you're going to be able to not only hopefully demo things at home, but you'll also hopefully get some discounts on things that typically aren't available. Because we already talked about the large margin that's built into a lot of these products. And when you have a relationship that's built on know, like, and trust, and you show that you are a customer and not somebody trying to abuse it, you build a relationship with somebody, all of a sudden, I can get you 10, 15, 20% off of this. I can get you an industry price on this. Hey, we have one in our demo lab that's only been used a handful of times. I can get you at a deep discount. You start working those arrangements out, and all of a sudden that unattainable speaker, component, DAC, turntable, all of a sudden becomes something, crap, I can afford that, because with the discounts, I can actually make it happen. So build those
building relationships.
Really important.
It really is. Really important. It's about building relationships in the industry, but it's also about like-minded people, like audiophiles, coming together at hi-fi shows and talking about music. And this is a hobby, a collective hobby. We are pack animals as human beings. We like being around each other. We like talking about the same things that commonality in a topic. So get to your hi-fi shows, even though they might be bonkers out of price for most of it, but get there and shake a few hands and talk to a few people, develop a few relationships, talk about music, talk about gear, and be an audiophile and just love the music.
Mm-hmm.
Mitch, any closing thoughts on your side before we wrap up?
Nope, I was just really happy to be here and be part of the conversation. And, I think we all brought up great points. I think it's more about everyone coming together, whether you're somebody that has a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 system, to the person that's just coming in, just wants to be part of the community, and maybe has like $1,000 total setup with speakers and everything, and they just be like, hey man, what do you guys know? I just want to be a sponge and just absorb all the information.
Right.
And then we have a response. Then it's those people who have the responsibility to be like, all right, come here. Yeah. Let's push you on the right path. Let's not dive into all of that. That can come later. But hey, we think you have a nice system now. But hey, maybe you can tweak this a little bit, and let's show you how.
Yeah. It's a responsibility.
That's our responsibility.
Yeah, that's the responsibility for us YouTubers that are out there that many people are seeing. We're not all narcissists. We're not all, what we are is we just want to help. We just want to take away some of the fog and the mist and the misunderstanding and try and get you guys to cut through that rubbish and get you guys back to enjoying the music again. And hi-fi shows are great for that. Hi-fi is great for that. Communities are great for that. And that's really what this should be about. It's about encouraging those healthy relationships amongst human beings, rather than it's all on these bloody things all the time. And that's how we have a conversation. I like talking to people. I like pressing the flesh. This is what's missing in our world today. And that's a whole nother topic, which we won't start.
Don't start that. We can't start that. We can't talk about the new Taylor Swift album like every other live show is doing. So there are two things we're not going to talk about here today, Shane.
Thank God.
But we're getting a lot of great feedback from folks that thank us for the show. So thank you for tuning in. We've been on for almost 2.5 hours, which was only supposed to be a 60-minute segment, but we really appreciate it. But you can see how much passion and topic is around the hi-fi world today, and what makes sense for consumers and what makes sense for manufacturers that, to give them credit, they do need to show off their pretty toys, right? They do need to show their flagship products, because that shows leadership and innovation. I don't discredit that.
No,
but
I don't either.
I think there's a balance on every room being featured with the unattainable versus showing off what we're capable of. I think there needs to be a balance. And I really wish people would start taping their price list on the front of the door so we can figure out what makes sense. It's not saying I ain't going to go to the $1 million room. Hell, I might go more towards those $1 million rooms thinking, I probably never see this in my life. Let me go see what it is, right? But really great show. Mitch, thanks for jumping in and being the guest halfway through. Shane, any closing comments as we wrap up here?
It was lovely to have Mitch on the show. Thanks, brother. It's good to see you there. And giving us your input. Louis and I, well, this is our every second week we want to try and do one of these things and get our communities involved in them, because there's a lot of well-balanced commentary that's happened here today, which I'm proud to have been a part of. And what we want to do is we want to bring you guys along for the ride. And that's why we do these things. That's why we sit here on a Saturday night in America and a Sunday morning here in Australia. And that's why that's what motivates us to do this, is to help the community be more aware of what's going on. And I couldn't be happier to be involved with Louis on these live streams and meeting other folks like Mitch is just, again, this is the communal aspect of being an audiophile, and long may it survive.
Yeah. Well, I hope everybody has a good evening or a good morning, depending where you're dialing in. And we hope to see you in 2 weeks with a new topic. Thank you so much for tuning into the Audiophile Show. We'll hopefully see you again. You guys have a wonderful evening, wonderful day. We'll see you.
Like, share, and subscribe.